Chapter 26, A Bloody Love Story, Part 1. Boom, boom, boom. Hearing a knock on the door, Loki, who was packing his luggage, stopped what he was doing and walked towards the door. Just when the door was opened, a figure rushed in from the door. The man was only 40 centimeters away from Loki, looking straight into Loki's eyes and asked, "I heard the news that you were going to leave Asgard to go outside to have a look. Is it true?" When Loki saw who it was, he couldn't help feeling dizzy. But everyone has already rushed in front of him. Loki can only bite the bullet and answer, "That's right. You know that too, Sif. I've been living in Asgard since I was born, and the only time I've ever traveled far was in Midgard for half a year. It's just not beyond the scope of the 9 realms. So now that I have a little bit of strength to protect myself, I want to go outside the 9 realms and see what the outside world is like while I'm still young." The person who came was none other than Heimdall's younger sister, the Asgard female warrior who grew up with Loki's childhood sweetheart, Sif. The reason why Loki has such a headache is because Odin loves Sif very much, and when Sif was very young, he expected her to become Thor's wife in the future. And Thor in this period really liked the beautiful and powerful Sif. Unfortunately, the two were assigned to suppress a rebellion. During the mission, Sif was ambushed by the enemy and was in danger. At this moment, Loki, who noticed that Sif was in a bad situation, immediately threw the dagger in his hand, and then rushed to Sif with the second step of flying Thor. Loki, who appeared in a flash, hugged Sif's slender waist with one hand and led him to avoid the enemy's attack. With the other hand, he threw the dagger again and used the second stage of flying Thor to bring the two out of the enemy's ambush. It seems that after this heroic rescue experience, Sif has a secret love for Loki, and every time Loki goes out to perform missions, Sif will apply to go with him. For Sif's obvious gesture of love, how could Loki not be aware of it because of his intelligence? And to be honest, a woman like Sif, who is naturally beautiful and has an independent personality, actively pursues herself, and Loki definitely is also very excited. As a result, Thor, Sif, and Loki become a love triangle where he loves her, she loves him, and he loves her. It's fine if it's just a love triangle, because Loki, who is a time traveler, knows that in the future Thor will find someone who really makes his heart move, but that person is not Sif, but a female scientist from Midgard. To add to Loki's headache, if he and Sif were together, wouldn't there really be reproductive isolation between them? After all, of the two of them, one belongs to the Aesir Protoss, while the other is an out-and-out Frost Titan. For this reason, Loki has never been able to truly confirm his feelings for Sif, and the relationship between the two has always been in an ambiguous state. Hearing Loki's affirmative answer, Sif looked at Loki with tears in his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me about this in advance? Because you were afraid that I would pester you. Loki, you are ruthless, cruel, and unreasonable." Loki heard Sif's words. "Where am I ruthless? Where is the cruelty? Where is the unreasonable trouble?" The response almost blurted out subconsciously. Fortunately, Loki was able to maintain his sanity for the time being and stopped his mouth in time. But Sif seems to be able to read Loki's thoughts. Even if he didn't finish the sentence, he still guessed what he was going to say. "Where are you not ruthless? Where are you not cruel? Where are you not making trouble for no reason?" This time, Loki's flaming spirit of taking the lead finally couldn't hold back anymore, and immediately retorted, "Okay, even if I'm ruthless, cold, and unreasonable. Sif, you are ruthless, cold, and unreasonable. Okay, let's stop arguing." Loki suddenly stretched his right hand forward, half-tilted his head, and said with his nostrils slightly open, "It's my fault that I didn't mention to you in advance that I'm leaving Asgard. I promise you, when I come back from the outside, I will watch the snow, the stars, and the moon with you. From poetry to philosophy of life. Okay? Good. Sif, I feel thrilled and scared and excited and happy right now. Just worried. Don't worry, we still enjoy this moment. This is a golden opportunity," Loki said and embraced Sif in his arms. "Sif, do you think you are too much? But I like you're too much. It has been a long time since I was hugged by you like this last time. Loki, I like you too much." "Sif, me too." "Loki, what did you say? I didn't hear clearly." "Sif, me too, me too, me too. I have as much as you have." No, I have more than you." "Loki, you can't have more than me, because I'm full." "Sif, you are full, then I will overflow." "Loki, Sif, before leaving Asgard, I have a secret to tell you." Unexpectedly, Sif directly covered his ears. "I won't listen. I won't listen. I won't listen. I'm here to join this family, not to tear it apart." "Oh, you tormenting little thing. Since you don't want to hear my secrets, take this as a thought for you while I'm away from Asgard," Loki said. From the cuff of his clothes, he took out a dagger and handed it to Sif. "This is the dagger specially made for me by the Dwarf King Ai Chui I found in Nidavellir. I left my magic mark on the dagger. If I'm not in Asgard, if you encounter any danger during your mission, as long as you instill your magic power into this dagger, I will be able to sense it and rush to your side as soon as possible." After listening to Loki's promise to himself, Sif looked down at the dagger that Loki handed him, trying to hide his blushing cheeks. "I will take good care of the dagger you gave me. Remember to be safe and take care of yourself when you are outside. I will wait for you to come back in Asgard." After speaking, it seemed that he could no longer bear the ambiguous atmosphere in the room. Sif took the dagger in his hand, turned around and ran away shyly. Only Loki, who was awake, was left alone in the room, confused. "What the hell did I do just now? That person just now is not me. That person just now is definitely not me. It must be that Aunt Cheong has put a goo on my soul." Chapter 27, Part 1. After all these years in Asgard, Loki piloted a spaceship for the first time. Because in the Nine Realms, no matter where you go, you can reach it through Bifrost. So although Asgard also has spaceships with a very high level of technology, they rarely have the opportunity to use them. The Xander star that Loki is going to this time is a planet outside the rule of Asgard. Since there is no record about Morag in Asgard's star map, Loki can only determine based on the information obtained in the movie in his previous life that the location of Morag should be in the Milky Way. To find this planet whose civilization has died, he still needs to obtain the standard coordinates of the Morag star in the universe. So Loki set the first destination of this trip to Xander, which is also located in the Milky Way. In a sense, what Loki told Odin and Sif wasn't a lie. He came out this time. In addition to getting the cosmic spirit ball on Morag, he also wanted to see the cultures of other life planets in this universe. Xander is the most inclusive planet in the Milky Way, and various races can be seen on Xander. Under the guardianship of the powerful Nova Corps, there is no discrimination or war on Xander. Under such an environment, a large amount of news gathers here every day. Loki wants to get news about Morag, and Xander is undoubtedly the best place to go. Moreover, Xander, as a multi-ethnic and multiracial multicultural civilization, is able to manage the entire planet in such an orderly manner. There must be some experience that Asgard can learn from. This is also something that Loki, who wants to become the king of Jotunheim in the future, must learn. In terms of speed and convenience, spaceships are definitely inferior to Bifrost. However, after jumping through space through several wormholes, Loki has successfully reached Xander. Different from the magical style of Asgard, Xander's star will make people feel emotional when you see it at first sight. This is what a technological civilization should look like in the future. On the flat road, only pedestrians pass. Other means of transportation pass through the artificially constructed air corridor. In the sky, small ships of the Nova Corps can be seen flying by from time to time. On the ground, there are patrol robots walking in the streets and alleys. Loki didn't immediately start collecting news about Morag, but walked slowly on the streets of Xander, analyzing the overall situation of this civilization. Xander's inclusive multiculturalism makes its population far exceed that of Asgard. However, if the military strength of the two countries were compared, the winner would undoubtedly be Asgard. Therefore, after seeing the prosperous civilization on Xander that eliminated discrimination and war, Loki couldn't help but have a bold idea. Can Asgard also follow the example of Xander and use Asgard's strong military strength as a guarantee to unify all the countries in the Nine Realms and integrate them into a multi-ethnic and multiracial multicultural civilization? In this way, the differences and wars among the 9 countries can be eliminated, so as to achieve long-term peace and stability. Thinking about it this way, this idea seems very ingenious. But after thinking about it carefully, Loki felt that he was still a little whimsical. If such a plan is to be realized, it is definitely not something that Asgard can unilaterally decide to do. Moreover, in the 9 realms, except for the humans in Midgard, most races have very long lifespans. The hatred between various forces and races usually lasts for thousands, or even tens of thousands of years. If you want these hateful races to live together peacefully, you can't do it simply by relying on Asgard's force deterrence. If you consider the entire 9 realms, this idea is almost impossible to realize. But if I do become the king of Jotunheim in the future, maybe I can try something different under my rule. After finishing his observation of Xander, Loki casually inquired on the side of the road, and found an all-purpose house that could trade the information he wanted. And the boss of this house of all things is also very powerful. In the ancient star map he collected, he quickly found the coordinates of the position of the Morag star. Definitely, if you want to get what you want in a place like Wanshuo, the price you need to pay is naturally not low. But unfortunately, when Loki came out this time, he brought a lot of things on the spaceship, but he just didn't bring any money. But it doesn't matter, Loki always has a way to get what he wants. Planted an illusion on the boss of Master House, and the boss, generously, gave Loki the location information of the Morag star that Loki needed. According to the coordinates given by the boss, Morag star is not far from Xander's star where he is now. For space jumping, the shortest distance can be reached only through 2 space wormholes. It was a long night and dreamy, so Loki didn't stop, and immediately drove the spaceship to the coordinates of Morag star. After the spacecraft moved away from Xander, the scenery outside the window quickly became desolate. But when Loki landed on Morag, he was deeply shocked by the sight he saw for the first time. This is the first time that Loki has seen with his own eyes what the entire planet will eventually look like after a civilization has completely disappeared. The traces of intelligent life living here are faintly visible, but under the sculpting of nature and time, all prosperity is attributed to the most primitive wildness. This made Loki suddenly recall a memory, where Ragnarok's Asgard happened. If I can't change the fate of Asgard, maybe after thousands of years, the prosperous Asgard will become like this. It seems that you can't get too complacent. You still have to continue to strengthen your own strength. As long as your strength is strong enough, all problems will become no problem. Thinking of this, Loki is even more urgent to get the Cosmic Spirit Orb. Although he knew that the Cosmic Spirit Ball was on Morag, he didn't know where it was. If you explore alone, you don't know that you will be able to find the temple where the Universe Spirit Ball is stored in the movie until the Year of the Monkey. Fortunately, Loki has been prepared for this. When magic cannot solve the problem, he will definitely rely on the power of technology. After returning to the cockpit for some operations, a dozen drones flew out of Loki's spaceship and began to scan the entire Morag star. Soon, one of the drones discovered the ruins of a temple emitting a violent energy reaction. Chapter 28, Part 1. Loki threw the Cosmic Spirit Ball in his hand one after another, with an expression of irrepressible joy. The civilization on Morag has been destroyed for an unknown number of years, and the various traps set up at the beginning have long since failed. After confirming the location of the Cosmic Spirit Ball, Loki went straight to Huanglong. He easily entered the secret room of the temple without even using elementalization along the way, and brought the Cosmic Spirit Ball back to the spaceship. But don't look at Loki throwing the Cosmic Spirit Ball around. Looking very relaxed, this thing is a dangerous item in the absolute sense. As the core of the Cosmic Spirit Ball, the only ability of the Power Gem is to endow the user with absolute power. It seems to be very simple, but this power has the destructive power that can completely destroy everything. This destructive power is not only aimed at the target of the attack. If the user originally cannot withstand this force, then even the user himself will be destroyed by the ability of the Power Gem. Although the Power Gem is now covered with a protective shell of the Cosmic Spirit Ball, its danger cannot be taken lightly. Don't forget, the once prosperous civilization on Morag was completely destroyed by the backlash of the Power Gem. However, Loki is not worried about this. With a bug skill like Mokabatmo, even if there is any accident, Loki can solve it by freezing time and space. What Loki needs to consider now is how to more easily manipulate the energy in the Power Stone. Although the Cosmic Spirit Ball has suppressed most of the violent characteristics of the Power Gem as a protective shell, it is still not stable enough to output energy outward. In the process of casting magic, this sudden strong and weak energy output can easily cause the magic to get out of control, thus revealing flaws. From this point, it can be seen that there is a considerable gap between the maker of the Cosmic Spirit Orb and the maker of Tesseract and Eye of Agamotto. On the spaceship that shuttled aimlessly between the planets, the Cosmic Spirit Ball kept sliding up and down in Loki's hand, retracting and releasing, back and forth, fancy kaleidoscopic shapeshift. A few hours passed like this. For the problem of unstable energy output of the Cosmic Spirit Ball, Loki still couldn't think of any good solution. Forget it, even if the strong man who made the Cosmic Spirit Ball back then is not comparable to a great god like Agamotto, he is by no means comparable to the current me. Even if he couldn't solve the problem perfectly at that time, I'm afraid I can't find a solution even if I think about it. Let's go to Nidaville to ask AI Chui for help and rebuild the Universe Spirit Ball. AI Chui can even create the magic of Infinity Gauntlet, which can control 6 infinite gems. It shouldn't be a problem for him to solve some small flaws in the Universe Spirit Ball. So Loki is in the cockpit, setting the destination of the spaceship autopilot to Asgard. Then prepare to take the Cosmic Spirit Ball and directly use the flying Thor to teleport to the position where he left the magic mark in Nidaville. But just when Loki was about to launch Thor, he suddenly sensed a reaction from one of the magic imprints he left behind. Loki thought at the first time whether Sif had encountered some danger, but after some induction, he realized that it was the magic imprint he left in Kamartaj's holy place that reacted. Loki was a little puzzled. What was Dyesi looking for at this time? Was Kamartaj in danger? Wrong. With Dyesher's strength and the Eye of Agamotto in hand, even if Dormammu makes a comeback, he should not be able to threaten him. After a short thought, Loki still had no clue. So he decided to use Thor to go back to Kamartaj to have a look. If nothing happened, it would definitely be the best, and it would be considered as going back to visit Daixi. If something really happens, with his current strength, he can also help Kamartaj. Sensing the magic imprint that reacted just now, Loki had a thought, and the next moment, he appeared in the Kamartaj Supreme Mage holy place. And at the moment, Dyesher was sitting in the holy place, not showing any surprise at Loki's sudden appearance. So, teacher, you deliberately triggered the magic mark I left in order to call me back. That's right. Dyesi nodded and admitted. Then teacher, you asked me to come back. Is there anything you need my help with? If so, just say it. I promised before that as long as I can do it, I will never refuse. After Loki finished speaking, Yesi nodded again. I'm looking for you this time, and I really need your help with one thing. By the way, let me tell you a piece of news. The corrupt mage who ambushed you before has been captured by us, and now we have locked him in the mirror space. He came back quietly originally intending to check on your news, but he didn't know that you had returned to Asgard a few years ago. As a result, he was discovered by Mage who is now living in your previous room, and the fighting between the two attracted when the other mage noticed. We all worked together to arrest him. Hearing this news, Loki did not have any emotional fluctuations, and just said flatly, if you don't mention this, I'll almost forget it. It's fine if someone catches it, and it's better to be kept alive in the mirror space than to be swallowed up by Dormammu someday. Let's talk about what it is. You need my help. At this time, Daishi slowly revealed the purpose of this meeting. Do you still remember the soul castle you mentioned to me a few years ago? Chapter 29, Part 1. Do you remember the soul castle you mentioned to me a few years ago? Darish asked Loki. As a frost titan with a lifespan of thousands of years, Loki's memory cannot be too bad. Otherwise, wouldn't he be dementia before he gets old? Definitely remember. We were also discussing the matter of the fallen mage that day, and then extended to the fact that mages are easily bewitched by Mephisto because their inner obsessions cannot be satisfied through white magic. At that time, I suggested to you that you can build a soul castle in Kamartaj in the same way as Asgard. In this way, the souls of those heroes who fought for Kamartaj can live in the soul castle after death. Middle. Wishes that were once unfulfilled in the material world can be made up in the spiritual world. In this way, the probability of mages being successfully bewitched by Mephisto can be greatly reduced. Having said that, Loki paused for a moment, then looked at Daishi in surprise and asked, Teacher, have you made up your mind to build a soul castle belonging to Kamartaj, so you asked me to come back to help? Daishi nodded slightly and said, I have thought about it many times in the past few years. I and these other mages first came to Kamartaj to learn magic, but they all had their own selfishness. Some people come to Kamartaj because they are shocked by the wonder of magic and to satisfy their thirst for knowledge. Some people hope to make up for the regrets of life, old age, sickness, and death through magic, so they come to Kamartaj. Others entered the gates of Kamartaj because of the pursuit of great strength and extraordinary power. But regardless of our original intentions, the result is that we did carry the responsibility that Kamartaj gave us to get to where we are today. Even if a small number of people failed to stick to their positions in the middle, everyone didn't come here with a pure purpose, and no one is more noble than anyone else. What qualifications do we have to criticize them? Compared to the time in life that a mage gave for Kamartaj, for justice, the magic that Kamartaj taught him is worthless at all. In the final analysis, Kamartaj owed them. In this case, as the supreme mage, I definitely want to make up to them. Therefore, the construction of the soul castle is imperative, and I definitely need your help from Loki. Loki nodded readily and agreed. There is definitely no problem. I have read the magic of creating the soul castle in a magic book in Asgard, and I have all the details in my mind. Just to build a soul castle, in addition to magic, there are also some magic materials that are also essential. Without them, it is impossible to build an environment and space that can satisfy the soul to reside in it. Father, after he decided to build the soul castle, it took a long time to prepare and consumed huge amounts of resources before finally successfully completing it. If we are going to reproduce a project like this in Kamartaj, we have to take a long-term view. For Loki's suggestion, Daishi shook his head this time and did not agree. In order to ensure the stable and continuous operation of the magic barrier against the invasion of other dimensions, Kamartaj needs to invest a lot of resources every year to protect Agamotto. The remaining 3 holy places are under maintenance. Kamartaj doesn't have the extra resources to invest in the construction of the soul castle. Also, I've run out of time. What do you mean there's no time? Loki's pupils dilated slightly, and there was a vague premonition in his mind. Daishi himself was rather calm. That's what you understand. No matter how powerful I am, I'm still just a mortal after all, and I will eventually face life. Old age, sickness, and death as a mortal. I am now 109 years old, which is quite a long life among mortals. I have experienced ordinary life in my life, and I have also experienced the magic of magic. Since I took over the important task of the Supreme Mage, I have been cautiously walking to this day, and I have finally lived up to the sacrifices made by my predecessors and the sacrifices made by my descendants. If my life ended here, it would be considered a fulfilling life. But I'm still not satisfied, or I still have regrets. If I can't complete the construction of the soul castle before leaving this world, maybe it will only exist in an illusory ideal forever. So, I have to finish it before I die. For that, I need your help, Loki. When I sensed that my lifespan was approaching, I began to think about how to build the soul castle without consuming any resources from Kamartaj. Finally, I found the answer. That is my soul. Use the powerful soul of a supreme mage to replace those materials, so that my soul will become the paradise where the souls of future heroes live. At the moment, Loki was completely stunned by Darishi's crazy idea. He couldn't imagine how much courage and madness a person must have before dying to come up with such a method and be willing to sacrifice his own soul. Even Loki, who is called a god by mortals, can only be ashamed of this lofty spirit. So regarding the Yeshur's decision, Loki did not persuade him to give up, but just asked him with a serious expression, "Are you sure? Once the sacrifice starts, there is no way to regret it." Yesi replied firmly, "I'm sure, I don't regret it." After a brief silence, Loki said, "Okay, I'll help you." The moment Loki agreed, a brilliant smile appeared on Yesi's face. At this moment, the holy aura emanating from Yesha made Loki feel that he is a god who can see through the sufferings of the world. Sure enough, the hymn of mankind is the hymn of courage, and the greatness of mankind is the greatness of courage. The old thief Araki sincerely does not deceive me. While Loki was preparing the magic circle for the construction of the soul castle, Yeshur left the holy place and announced to all the mage in Kamartaj the successor of the next supreme mage, and at the same time announced the existence of the soul castle to everyone. But he didn't tell everyone that the price he paid for building the soul castle was the powerful soul of his supreme mage. After all this was done, Yeshur returned to the holy place with the young man, and introduced to the busy Loki, "Loki, this is the next supreme mage I have chosen. Her name is Yao. Yao is a very capable child. I believe she will become a more outstanding supreme mage than me in the future. But she is still very young now. I hope that if she encounters any trouble in the future, Loki, you can help take care of her." Loki turned his head and glanced at the young man named Yao. He was a very pretty girl. The only fly in the ointment, perhaps, is the little bald head whose hair has disappeared without a trace at a young age. I can agree to this request, but I think Yao may not need my help and care at all. I can tell at a glance that she has the conditions to become a top powerhouse. After all, she has become bald now, so the distance to become stronger should not be far away. Having received Loki's promise, Yesi nodded in relief. "Yao, then you go out first. Regarding Supreme Mage, I have already explained to you what should be explained, and I will leave the rest to you." Yao solemnly bowed to Daishi, turned and left the holy place. After she left, Yeshur's kind eyes just now gradually became determined. Loki already knew what he was thinking from the look in his eyes. "Everything is ready." "Thank you, Loki." Yeshur thanked. Loki waved his hand. "There is nothing to thank. Since I promised, I will definitely do it." "Then, bye, Daresh." "Goodbye, Loki." After finishing speaking, Darishi's soul had left his body and projected into the magic circle constructed by Loki. The next moment, as Loki constantly increased the output of magic power, the entire magic circle erupted with dazzling light. Chains emerged one after another from the magic circle, tightly binding the soul of Yeshur in it. Afterwards, a fiery flame rose in the magic circle and began to burn Yesi's soul. Yesi decided to use his own soul as the material for building the Hall of Valor, which meant that his soul needed to be burned by fire and repeatedly forged. In the extreme pain, he will gradually lose his consciousness and finally become a part of the soul castle as the material to carry the soul. That's why before starting to prepare the magic circle, Loki asked Darishi so seriously if he was really sure to do this. Chapter 29, Part 2. Under the burning of the magic flame, Yesi's soul has gradually begun to melt, and at the moment, a giant hammer appeared in the magic circle. The sledgehammer kept falling onto Ishi's soul, beating him into shape, and then folding it, and then continuing to beat him again. During the whole process, Yesi always had a faint smile on his face, and he didn't utter a single painful cry from the beginning to the end. I don't know how much time has passed, but Loki just provided magic power for the magic circle like a machine. It wasn't until the soul castle was successfully completed and the magic circle dissipated completely that Loki realized that he had burst into tears unconsciously. Seeing that the soul castle has been successfully built and began to slowly disappear into the void, Loki said softly again, "Goodbye, Daresh." Chapter 30, Part 1. When Loki walked out of the holy place, the new supreme mage was standing in front of the door. But she didn't look into the holy place, but locked her eyes firmly on Loki. "You were waiting for me?" Loki asked tentatively. The girl didn't answer his question, but instead asked, "Has the Yesi mage gone?" "You know?" Loki was a little surprised. "Although I don't know your Asgard's magic, I have learned some rune characters." After seeing the magic circle inside, I guessed what the Yesi mage was thinking. During Yao's narration, his tone was very calm, but the sadness in his eyes couldn't be concealed. Daisy is right. You are indeed a mage with extraordinary abilities. Although I can't teach you the magic of Asgard on my own, if you want, I can teach you some tricks I created myself. The little tricks that Loki is talking about are definitely his Flying Thor series of magic and Spiral Pill series of magic. Now that Daishi had promised to take care of Yao, it was natural to come up with something real. Moreover, the magical ability shown by Yao also made Loki love talents. The principles of these two kinds of magic are very simple, and they are not exclusive to different magic systems, so they are just right to teach Yao. Regarding this, Yao was not polite, and directly said to Loki, "I want to learn." She has now become the new Supreme Mage, shouldering the important task of protecting the safety of the entire Midgard on the magic side. For her, the more means to enhance her strength, the better. "Okay, since you want to learn, I will teach you everything." Loki thinks that the new Supreme Mage is really more and more interesting, with high ability, courageous personality, and more importantly, the talent of a great emperor, bald head. The two of them didn't waste time. After the matter was decided, they returned to the Supreme Mage holy place and started teaching. In the past few years, although Loki has stagnated in the progress of the system, the study of skills has been going on. Like the magic of the Flying Thor series, in addition to the original Flying Thor and the later derived Flying Thor 2, he later developed the Flying Thor guide mind that can transfer space to other objects. As for the Spiral Ball series, let alone the various balls that Prince Naruto mastered in the combustible and non-combustible stages, Loki copied them all through magic power. There are more than 20 large and small file sizes and various types of meatballs. Loki's original plan was to teach Yao the most basic magic of Flying Thor and Helix Pill today. After she practiced for a period of time, she would return to Kamar Taj and slowly teach her the remaining series of derivative magic. But Loki still underestimated Yao's learning ability. He just explained the principle of magic 1 second before, and Yao was able to use this magic 1 second later, and Loki didn't even have time to demonstrate it to Yao. Moreover, after learning a spell, Yao can immediately draw inferences about it. Before Loki can teach her some derivative magic, Yao has already mastered it by himself. As a result, in just one afternoon, Yao learned all the magic of the Flying Thor series and the Spiral Pill series. Although some details and skills in using magic are still lacking, Yao's ability, even Loki, the #1 mage in the 9 realms, is amazed. "Teacher, thank you very much for teaching me today." In the holy place, Yao respectfully saluted Loki, who was about to leave. Although Loki only taught her for an afternoon, Yao changed his address to teacher. This scene made Loki think of Daresh again. He was like Yao a few years ago. Even though Daesher kept saying that he didn't teach him anything, Loki still called him a teacher all the time. "Flying Thor, you have also learned to leave my magic imprint in the holy place. After I leave, if you need to find me, please notify me through the magic imprint. I will come as soon as possible after sensing it." Yao nodded and said, "I understand, teacher. If there is anything I need to trouble you, teacher, I will definitely not be polite. By the way, teacher, I don't think the name Yao is aggressive enough. It really doesn't match my status and majesty as the Supreme Mage. How about changing my name to Ancient One, Ancient One? In the future, I will make those Mephistas who plan to invade our dimension be terrified when they hear my name, Ancient One, and dare not have any thoughts about our world anymore." Loki sat face up in the cockpit, staring blankly at the ship's ceiling. Until now, he still couldn't believe it. He didn't expect that the little bald head he taught was actually the other boss of the future-level Godfather, Ancient One. In the future, Ancient One has broken through the boundary between black magic and white magic, and can still maintain an immortal soul after the death of the body. Thinking of this, Loki suddenly felt a sense of urgency. "I am still at the peak of level Sub-Godfather, and have not broken through to level Godfather. If Ancient One came from behind and surpassed me, where would I put my face as a teacher? I can't continue to be in a daze here. I have to find AI Chui quickly, help me solve the problem of the universe spirit ball, and then find a way to complete the main task of the system as soon as possible. Otherwise, if this continues, I will really lose face." Flying Thor activated, Loki teleported directly onto Nidaville. "Where did you get such a big treasure? It's a waste of money. It's a waste of money. Look here, how can you use this method to forge it?" And here, the rune is obviously wrong. After Loki handed the cosmic spirit ball in his hand to AI Chui to check, AI Chui kept chattering and pulling him, pointing out to him all kinds of low-level mistakes made in the process of building the cosmic spirit ball. Okay, I'm here to ask you to help improve this thing, not to listen to your complaints about the meeting. AI Chui, just tell me, if you can solve the problem of unstable energy output of this thing, let's finish it, son." Loki, who was already impatient, interrupted him directly. "Definitely no problem. You can come to me for this matter. I'm not bragging. There is really no one in the 9 realms who can help you solve this problem except me." AI Chui assured, patted his chest. The person who built this cosmic spirit ball, although the forging skills are not very good, but what they made is not useless. At least it can suppress the violent core of this thing. To solve the problem of unstable energy output, the easiest and quickest way is to put a new protective shell on the outside. Loki's eyes lit up when he heard the words. He jumped onto AI Chui's shoulder, and then whispered in his ear, "If this is the case, Can this new protective shell help me make it like this? That is? AI Chui listened to each request made by Loki and constantly nodded his huge amounts of head. The requirements you mentioned are not a problem for me. However, if the entire protective case is in that color, wouldn't it be a bit too ostentatious? And the shape you mentioned, isn't it too exaggerated? Loki put his hands behind his back and shook his head, pretending to be profound. AI Chui, you don't understand. Sometimes men just need some unrealistic romance. The shape I proposed, although it is not practical, but it can't stand it handsome. If I hang it on my chest at that time, don't you think it is very handsome? Chapter 31, Part 1. Although he didn't know what the so-called romance of a man was in Loki's mouth, AI Chui still built a new protective shell according to his request. It was a square pyramid made of building blocks of various shapes, and the whole body showed a golden yellow luster. On one of the triangular faces of the cone, a hollow eye symbol is chiseled. Through the position of the eyeballs of this symbol, one can just see the cosmic spirit ball nested inside the quadrangular pyramid. At the center of the bottom of the cone, there is also a gold ring, and a rough silver necklace is buckled on the ring. Try it. The problem of unstable energy output has been solved before, and I don't know how you came up with such a strange shape. AI Chui handed Gold's pyramid to Loki, muttering in his mouth. Loki is not as knowledgeable as AI Chui. He is a rough old man who doesn't know what romance is. Taking the gold pyramid that AI Tree handed him, Loki stroked its smooth surface with his hands, showing a very obscene expression on his face. The strange shape that AI Chui mentioned is actually the 1,000-year-old building blocks worn by the protagonist in an anime Yu-Gi-Oh! That Loki had seen in his previous life. When I watched this anime as a child, Loki thought that if he could wear a 1,000-year-old building block, he would look very cool. It's a pity that there was no such condition at that time. The only thing that could be hung around the neck was the key of the house. Now, although it's a different world, it can be regarded as satisfying the childhood regrets of the previous life. What's more, the shape of the 1,000-year-old building blocks, even if it is changed to another universe, Loki still thinks it is very handsome. Wearing the Millennium building block on his chest, Loki began to try to mobilize the energy in the power gem for his own use. The originally violent and unstable energy, after being suppressed by the cosmic spirit ball and balanced by the 1,000-year building blocks, when it came to Loki's hands, it was already docile like a newborn baby. Under Loki's control, this energy quickly rotated and compressed, and finally formed a spiral pill in his hands that he had practiced for 2.5 years. Hey, be careful, don't let that thing blow up my place. Seeing the appearance of Helix Wand, AI Chui only felt his scalp tingling and quickly reminded him. First, I'm paying attention now. Second, my name is Loki Odinson if I don't call you. Third, your craftsmanship is awesome. I will come to you next time I need you. Fourth, if I have something to do, let's go first, bye. As soon as the words fell, Loki and the spiral pill in his hand disappeared from AI Chui's sight. On the desolate and dead planet Morag, Loki suddenly appeared here with a spiral pill in his hand. And the moment Loki landed, he also pressed the spiral pill in his hand to the ground at the same time. With a huge amount of explosion, the ground instantly produced a large amount of smoke and dust under the powerful destructive force. After the smoke and dust dissipated, what the blow just now left on the ground was a huge crater comparable to a meteorite impact. Even Loki himself was amazed by the power of the spiral pill just now. It seems that I didn't feel wrong when I was in Nidaville. Although after the adjustment of the 2 protective shells of the Cosmic Spirit Ball and the 1,000-year building block, the energy of the power gem can already be used normally. But the quality of this energy is much higher than my own magic power, so that under the same amount of consumption, the power and effect of the skills used with the help of power gems are dozens of times that of my own magic power. If this is the case, then not only can Mokobatmo, the killer weapon at the bottom of the box, be freed from the restriction that it can only be used once a day. Even the duration of freezing time and space after using Mokobatmo can be greatly improved. It just so happens that there are no life forms on this planet, so let's try the effect of Mahapatmo here. Everything in the world will be frozen in front of me. Hit Furuto. As Loki Zhong Air shouted the name of the move out of the blue, and then twisted his body to make a JoJo standing motion, the whole world seemed to suddenly quiet down. Within the range covered by the Machbatmo skill, the only one who can move freely is Loki himself, who activated this skill. While silently counting the time in his mind, Loki began to wreak havoc in this completely still space. It wasn't until Loki counted silently to 60 seconds that Machbatmo's effect of freezing time and space was completely released. And as the flow of time returned to normal, all the places where Loki had destroyed just now exploded at the same time. The blazing flames shot up into the sky, as if a small sun had risen from the ground of Star Morag. Just when the flame was about to rise to its highest point in the air, Loki activated his skill again. Smash Furuto. The flame was fixed there so abruptly, like a tombstone erected for the planet Morag. But this time, Mokobatama only lasted less than 10 seconds, and the effect of freezing time and space ended. At the same time, Loki could feel the position of his temple, and there was an inexplicable tingling faintly. It seems that even in the case of sufficient magic power, it is impossible to use a move like Moko Batmo without restrictions. In addition to magic power, it will also consume my mental power. However, if the original 60-second time stop duration is divided, each time-space freeze lasts only a few seconds, which will not only increase the number of uses, but also reduce the mental load a lot. After paying the price of temporary dizziness, Loki finally figured out the limit of his current ability. As the saying goes, if you know yourself and the enemy, you will never be imperiled in 100 battles. Only by clearly understanding one's own strength and the enemy's strength can one flexibly adapt to actual combat. Loki has always done a good job, at least in terms of waking up to himself. Chapter 32. The Mysterious Man Who Met by Accident, Part 1. Loki is very satisfied with the increase in his own strength brought by the Millennium building blocks. For now, except for the ultimate move like Moko Batmo, other skills can be used without restriction. But the surrounding environment may not be so happy. After his ravages just now, the place where the pillar of fire rose has now formed a lava lake. Bubbles and flames are still popping up on the surface of the lava lake. It can be seen that even after the explosion is over, the scorching heat is still scorching the land. Fortunately, on this planet, there are no environmentally friendly girls who stand up and point to Loki's nose and ask, "Oyster sauce," so Loki doesn't need to worry about any environmental issues. However, even Loki himself may not have thought that although his actions did not attract protests from environmentalists, they brought him a big trouble. Having finished testing the Millennium Block, Loki is preparing to use the flying Thor to leave Morak. But at this moment, a voice suddenly rang in his ear. "I thought there were no life forms on this planet, but I didn't expect to meet a single Asgard." From the tone of the man's voice, it seemed that he was very happy to meet Loki unexpectedly. But Loki at the moment, for the sudden appearance of the unknown existence, only felt shuddering in his heart. And his instinct told him that the owner of this voice was very dangerous. "You seem nervous, huh? Don't worry, I won't hurt you. You look behind." The man's reassurance did nothing for Loki, but following the direction indicated by the voice, he finally saw the true face of that person. When Loki turned around, the first thing he saw was a white spaceship shaped like a goose egg. On top of the spaceship stood a man. The man was not wearing any Hiyu flight suit, and his hands released the energy of blue to connect him to the spaceship, which looked like he was pulling the reins in his hands, and the spaceship was the white horse he was riding. However, combined with his slightly fat figure, this matter looks very inconsistent. After confirming that Loki had seen him, the man jumped off the top of the spaceship and landed less than 10 meters away from him in front of Loki. He looked at Loki with a kind smile on his face, and with his gray beard and hair, it was easy to feel close to him. But no matter how friendly he appears, Loki doesn't trust someone he's meeting for the first time easily. What's more, from the blue energy released from his hand just now, Loki can feel that the opponent's strength is stronger than his own. Loki looked at him vigilantly, but the man seemed to be unaware of it, or out of contempt for the weak Loki, he still walked towards Loki with a smile on his face. "Young man, relax. I'm just a lonely wanderer drifting in the universe, hoping to find more life. Can you tell me how you did what you just did?" Facing his question, Loki had a puzzled look on his face. Because logically speaking, with his energy intensity and control over energy just now, it is impossible not to master the skill of energy explosion. Even if it caused a greater degree of damage, it should not be difficult for this man. But why did he stop his spaceship and come to Loki to ask this question? However, in the next second, Loki knew the scalp-numbing answer from his words. "How did you manage to completely stop the movement inside the molecule? My spaceship passed by here just now. When I discovered this, I was almost terrified." Although the man said that he was about to be frightened, there was no change in expression on his face. This guy, he can actually feel that time and space are frozen. Loki was very surprised by this. At the same time, the judgment of this man's strength and danger level has been raised by another level. "Sorry, I have nothing to say about the matter you asked. Now I am leaving here. Please continue your drifting journey in the universe." "No, please wait a moment." Seeing that Loki was about to leave, an energy chain appeared in the man's hand, trying to force Loki to stay. But Loki, who was always vigilant, was trapped by him with a light move. Flowers in the mirror and moon in the water. Black is surrounded by mist, and Loki is now a flower reflected in the mirror and a moon floating in the water. The energy chain created by the opponent directly penetrates the phantom left by Loki. 2 thorny spears. On the other hand, after dodging the opponent's attack, Loki's body did not relax. The 2 ice spears instantly condensed and fired towards each other. To Loki's surprise, the man didn't make any dodge movements. The 2 thorny spears hit his chest directly, and then pierced into the ground, nailing his whole body in place. Even so, the man still had that fake kind smile on his face. He stretched out his hands to crush the ice spear that pierced his body, but the penetrating wound left on his chest didn't even have a trace of blood. Silk threads made of countless ice-blue energies quickly gushed out from the wound, but within a short while, the man had already recovered from the inside to the outside. This guy, what kind of monster is it? His body is actually completely composed of molecules controlled by divine power. At this moment, Loki finally understood how his former enemy felt when he was able to elementalize himself. But Loki doesn't intend to use the flying Thor to escape now. After the first confrontation just now, Loki has already analyzed that the strength of this mysterious person is indeed superior to him. But the actual combat ability is insufficient, lack of combat experience and combat skills. Although he has just used the Moko Potmo twice, he is not in the best state of mind right now. But even if the two sides start to make serious moves, Loki is sure to get out unscathed. That being the case, I definitely need to investigate carefully. What is the origin of this mysterious man? Chapter 33. So it was that scumbag, Part 1. Is it because of the pendant on your chest? The magic that can pause time. In a confrontation, the intelligence battle between the two sides is always relative. Obviously, while Loki was collecting information about the other party was also collecting information about Loki. Loki successively used Mirror Flower Water Moon and 2 Thorny Spears by mobilizing the energy in the Millennium building blocks. Although the whole process took only a few seconds, this information was still captured by the man. This made Loki silently add one more item to him in his heart, the ability to have a very sensitive sensory energy. Aren't you answering? Ha ha ha, it seems I guessed it right. To appear in this place with such a powerful artifact, your identity in Asgard shouldn't be easy, right? The man didn't care about Loki's silence. He was still talking to himself with a relaxed expression. Your elders may have given you such a precious treasure because they were worried that you would be in danger outside. However, they may not have heard such a sentence. A man is not guilty, but a woman is guilty. Since you have sent the treasure to me, how can I let it go so easily? I don't know where you Asgard got this treasure. The energy contained in it makes even my natural Shindu feel terrified. With this treasure, it won't be long before my duplications can spread all over the universe. At that time, I will be the master of the universe. Young man, if you leave your things now, I can let you go for Odin's sake. Otherwise, when I get angry, your life will be lost. Now Loki is 100% sure that this guy must be a villain and not run away. Because only the villain would say so many words before making a move, revealing his plan and purpose unabashedly. And after listening to the other party's series of confessions, Loki has basically guessed his true identity. If the guess is correct, he should be the famous scumbag in the Marvel movie universe, the 3,000 women who ascended in the daytime, and the foolish biological father of Star-Lord, the god Ego. It's no wonder that this guy is so emboldened to talk here. In the face of his level god father's strength, if it were someone else, I'm afraid he would have obediently followed what he said. It's a pity that he ran into Loki, who is a badass. With the blessing of multiple skills such as Mirror Flower and Water Moon, Ice Elementalization, and Flying Thor, Loki's life-saving ability can almost be said to be at the full level. Unless the enemy holds infinite gems, an artifact that can attack from the rule level, or possesses strength above the level single universe. Otherwise, no matter who the opponent is, Loki is inherently invincible. What's more, half-baked gods like Egu were directly dealt with by his filial son Xingjue with a bomb in the movie. There is no other divine power of the level god father, but no other body of the level god father. As long as he can find his body, Loki's strength is enough to kill him. Thinking of this, Loki is already a little eager to try. If he could kill Egg at this moment, wouldn't that Star-Lord who punched in Avengers Alliance 4 shit stick in the future not appear? Thinking about it this way, Loki became even more excited about killing the scumbag Egg. But the ego standing in front of me now is just a duplication created by that scumbag man using his divine power to manipulate molecules. If you want to really kill him, you still have to find his body. Since this is the case, I can only let this guy's duplication bring me in front of his real body. Loki calmly planned the details of the next action in his mind, while duplication, a scumbag standing not far away, completely lost patience when he saw that Loki was completely unmoved by his proposal. Young man, since you don't know good from bad, don't blame me for being rude. With that said, Egg's scum duplication launched an attack on Loki. After the fight just now, he also seems to understand that relying solely on the ability of duplication can't do anything to win Loki. So this time, duplication directly rooted the divine power in its body into the land of Star Morak. Then, under the ability of the divine manipulator, the land around the two of them seemed to come alive. Stone dragons and earth dragons surged from the ground towards Loki and strangled them. Under such an overwhelming attack, there is no room to dodge at all. But all this can't stop Loki. Ice Age. The extremely cold freezing air quickly spread from Loki to the surroundings, freezing everything it touched along the way into ice. The stone dragons and earth dragons that were still twisting their bodies just now turned into wonders. And Loki is like the king of this frozen world, surrounded by them in the center. Loki's move of Ice Age really shocked Ego. Almost half of Morag planet was covered by ice, and the range of freezing air's influence even surpassed his divine power as a god. But at the same time, Ego looked at the Millennium building block with more and more fiery eyes. The stronger the ability of the 1,000-year building block, the more benefits he can bring to himself after he succeeds. With this in mind, Ego decided not to keep his strength and input almost all the divine power in the duplication into the energy root system that was planted just now. As egg duplication began to do its best, everything that was frozen by Loki was activated again. It's like everything that Loki did just now made Egg's wedding dress. Those substances controlled by Egg, after Loki put a pair of frost armor on them, turned his head and attacked Loki again. Not only that, while Egu relaunched the offensive, he also prepared a dark hand. He took advantage of Loki's focus on the impending attack in front of him and directly removed all the ground under Loki's feet. Loki, who suddenly lost support under his feet, had no way to adjust his center of gravity or change his position. Seeing that the Earth Dragon in ice armor was about to hit Loki's body, there was no panic in Loki's eyes. Boom, 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 boom. Under Ego's duplication control, hundreds of thousands of tons of material poured down towards the location, and the violent vibration even cracked the ground frozen by Loki because it couldn't bear it. When Egg's attack finally stopped, the flat ground where Loki had just stood had changed. The smoke and dust dissipated, and a mountain peak mixed with ice, mud and rocks stood there abruptly. Seeing this scene, EGE's duplication finally revealed his true face. The kind fake smile that has remained unchanged for thousands of years has now been replaced by a face that is contemptuous of everything. I got you. Loki's voice came from behind him just as Egg's spirit relaxed. It turns out that Loki threw a dagger at the position of Egg duplication when he activated Ice Age. For Loki's action, Ego definitely also discovered it. But because the dagger didn't pose any threat to him, Egg subconsciously ignored its existence. But it was this dagger that he ignored, which drew a parabola in the air and landed in the blind spot behind him. Relying on this dagger, Loki used Thor's second flight at the last moment and teleported to Egg's back. Then, when the opponent thought that he had the chance to win, he swung the dagger in his hand and stabbed the back of the duplication. As a villain, it's fine if you don't know the reason why villains die because of talking too much, and you don't even understand the law that there is smoke without injury. You, a villain, have failed too much. Under Egg's surprised eyes, Loki smiled evilly with his mouth twisted and directly filled the taunt. You can't hurt me. As long as my divine power is still there, I can continue self-healing. Being teased by Loki, the duplication turned around and yelled at Loki angrily. But the next second, just as he was about to attack Loki again, Loki disappeared completely from his sight. Ah, bastard, get out of here. There is no end between us. Even if it is Asgard, I will find you. Duplication, which lost its target, can only be alone on the deserted planet Morag, impotent and furious. Chapter 34. Eat Me a Super Jade Spiral Shuriken, Part 1. That scumbag, he should still be on Morag now, incompetently furious at the boundless wilderness. Ha 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 ha. Loki, who returned to the spaceship, could imagine the expression on Ego's face when he suddenly disappeared. Definitely the reason Loki chose to fly Thor back to the spaceship was not to escape. It's just that, knowing that Egg on Morag is a duplication, Loki felt that he didn't need to waste energy on him. Anyway, no matter how many times his attack hits the opponent, that guy will recover to his original state in a short time. Even if Loki finds a way to eliminate the opponent, wasting a lot of time to eliminate a duplication is a complete loss for Loki. So after Loki decided to kill Egg's body, he had already formulated a very detailed action plan in his mind. From his use of Ice Age, to the dagger ignored by Egg, and finally launching, flying Thor's second stage, he stabbed into Egg's duplication. Every move is within Loki's calculations. But as the god of tricks and lies, how could Loki's calculations be so simple? Now that he already knew that his attack could not cause fatal damage to Egg's duplication, why did Loki stab that knife, stupidly? The answer is that all of this is actually a cover-up to confuse Egg duplication. Loki first stabbed to attract duplication's attention, and then provoke the other party's emotions with verbal taunts. In the end, when Egg duplication was burning with anger and was about to lose his mind, Loki had unconsciously left the imprint of flying Thor's magic power on the back of the opponent's neck. After finishing all this, Loki left gracefully, waving his sleeves without taking a single cloud. The only thing left for Egg's duplication is that crooked smile full of irony. I'm afraid even if the Dragon King returns, he can only bow down. The trap has been set. Next, Loki just needs to quietly wait for the prey to take the bait. Once duplication returns to the planet where Ego is located with the magical imprint left by Loki, He can teleport there directly and give the other party a surprise mother F ****. For the next several months, Loki piloted the spaceship without making a single space jump, just roaming in the universe in such a leisurely manner, while constantly collecting information on the various footholds of Ego duplication. After repeated analysis and comparison of the coordinates of these footholds, Loki finally determined the coordinates of the location of Ego's body. Because of EGE's duplication, every time he leaves from a planet, he will return to the same coordinates for a period of time. Loki guesses that duplication consumes most of its divine power every time it plants its energy roots on a new planet. Therefore, after a duplication completes a mission, it needs to return to the planet where the main body is located to replenish the lack of divine power in the body. Now the location coordinates of Ego's body have been determined, and the rest is to wait until duplication returns to the planet body again for rest. According to his observation during this period, the average time for duplication to complete a task is about a week. If there is no accident, the other party will return to the planet body again after 7 days. However, Loki will not waste these 7 days in vain. Since the last time he used the Mokabatmo twice on Morag, his proficiency in this skill has reached 70%. During these 7 days, it was completely enough for Loki to increase the skill proficiency of Mokabatmo to 100%, and then adjust his own state to the peak. As a result, on the 4th day, Loki had already completed the first small goal. Skill, Mokopatmo, Proficiency, 100% A Skill Introduction. From Taigu, Mephisto Appearance E Demon Essence User, Shaking S Queen Estus. When the skill is activated, it can create a low temperature of absolute zero, completely stagnating the movement of microscopic particles, thus temporarily freezing time and space. With the help of the power of 1,000-year building blocks, time and space can be frozen for up to 90 seconds. At 100% proficiency level, Loki's control over mental power and magic power is more refined. As a result, the time he can freeze time and space has increased from nearly 70 seconds on Morag to today's full 90 seconds. When fighting an enemy, the 90-second pause is more than enough time for Loki to smash hundreds of steamrollers into the enemy's face. For the remaining few days, Loki was not doing any training, but was meditating to adjust his mental and physical state. Until the 6th night, Loki suddenly sensed that the duplication had returned to the coordinates of the planet itself. Although it was a day earlier than expected, Loki at the moment is in good shape. After staying on the spaceship for such a long time, he went through 2 days of meditation adjustments. Even Loki, who likes to be flat with times and square root, feels a little itchy. Loki adjusted the spaceship to autopilot mode, and then did not teleport to Igo's body immediately, but first flew to the Morag star by flying Thor. Coming to this desolate planet again, the corners of Loki's mouth could not help but curl up. If Thor saw Loki's expression now, he would turn and run without any hesitation. Because whenever Loki shows this expression, everyone who sees it will be treated very badly by Loki. And this time would be no exception. Loki raised his right hand above his head and constantly mobilized energy from the Millennium Block. Huge amounts of energy are constantly rotating and compressing in Loki's palm, but the volume has not shrunk like the spiral pills used in the past, but is getting bigger and bigger. While the volume of Helix pill continued to expand, a gust of wind began to appear around Loki. You must know that because the galaxy where the Morag star is located has no fixed star radiation, the air convection on this planet is extremely weak, and it is impossible to form a natural wind at all. But now, there is an unusually light wind blowing around Loki, and the wind is constantly increasing. As the wind gradually increased, wind blades like the blades of an electric fan appeared around the huge amounts of Helix Wand, and at the same time, the whole Wand began to emit a piercing, buzzing sound constantly. The next moment, Loki launched Thor again, and this time he finally appeared on Egg's planet itself. Ego, Eat Me, Super Big Jade Spiral Shuriken. Chapter 35, Part 1. Ego, Eat Me, Super Big Jade Spiral Shuriken. Egg Duplication, who was flying Thor to locate the signpost, didn't hold back for even a second in front of Loki's palm technique that descended from the sky, before he was divided into a pile by the countless tiny magic blades of the super-large Jade Spiral Shuriken molecular. But Loki's offensive didn't stop here. The duplication that eliminated Egg was just an appetizer for him, and the real main meal, the main body, hadn't been served yet. Loki was still constantly injecting the energy of the Millennium building blocks into the spiral pill, and then at the moment when he could no longer control it, he threw out the super-large Jade Spiral Shuriken that was about to run out of control. The Berserk super-large Jade Spiral Shuriken directly came into close contact with Ego's planet itself, but there was no violent explosion seen as imagined. The high-speed rotating super-large Jade Spiral Shuriken seems to have become an efficient shield machine. After touching the surface of the planet, it began to penetrate hard towards the core position where Ego's body is located. All the obstacles that stand in front of it along the way will be disintegrated by its countless tiny magic blades. At this time, the planet's crust and mantle began to move relatively substantially, which caused strong earthquakes on the surface. Egu seems to hope to change the original trajectory of the super-large jade spiral shuriken through this relative movement between the strata. But in Loki's view, this is Egg, the aloof god, trembling uncontrollably because of too much fear when he realizes that he is about to face death. Ha, Egg, you half-god. Are you shaking with fear? You can't do this, look. The Millennium Building block you want is still hanging around my neck. I'm delivering it to my door now. How can you do it if you don't hesitate? Loki kept provoking Egg with words, but maybe he had more energy than he wanted. And Ego didn't even have a word of rebuttal except that he trembled more violently. Speak up. You were very arrogant when you tried to grab my things on Morag. Why don't you speak now? Ego, don't hide in there and keep quiet. I know you're home. You're capable of snatching things. Why can't you speak? The unilateral provocation failed to get Ego's response, so Loki decided to give this scumbag another boost. Mobilizing the energy of the 1,000-year building blocks, Loki began to quickly condense spiral pill shurikens one by one, and then launched a carpet bombing towards the surface of the planet. The inexhaustible energy of the Millennium Building blocks, combined with Loki's super magic control ability, directly makes him a humanoid Gatling fort that continuously fires spiral pill shurikens. Although the power of the Helix Maru Shuriken is not as powerful as the Super Jade Helix Shuriken, under Loki's high density and continuous attacks, cracks can already be seen on the surface. And these cracks are still constantly spreading around. Even if Ego keeps sending divine power to repair, it still can't keep up with the speed of Loki's destruction. Soon, Egg stopped using divine power to repair the planet's crust. Just when Loki thought that Egg was going to give up struggling, he suddenly noticed something was wrong. Why does the crust on the surface of the planet seem to be actively cracking? It's not an illusion. The crust on the planet's surface is indeed actively cracking. What exactly does Egg want to do? Loki's doubts didn't last long, and Egg gave the answer with practical actions. As an old guy who has existed in the universe for millions of years, how could he give up his life so easily? This planet is a protective shell created by Ego after spending a long time and a lot of divine power in order to protect his fragile core. And now, since this protective shell could no longer effectively protect him, and might even become a drag on him, Egg would abandon it without hesitation. As the strata of the entire planet continued to crack, Loki finally knew what Egg was planning. On the ground, only a few hundred meters away from Loki, 5 towering peaks suddenly pierced through the rock formations on the surface. Immediately afterwards, a huge amount of rock farther away also broke through the rock formation on the surface and slowly emerged from the ground. But Loki knew that those were not mountains and rocks at all, but Ego's huge body rebuilt after abandoning the protective shell of the past. The 5 mountain peaks are actually the palms of Ege's slowly raised upwards, and the huge rock that floats out of the ground is the head of his huge body. Ego gave up the strong defense brought by the original planet, and chose to build huge amounts of the body of the gods in exchange for more flexible mobility. At the same time, due to the change in appearance, Loki could no longer tell which part of the body Ego transferred his core to. It's even possible for Ego to keep his core shifted in the body in exchange for a higher security type. It would definitely be bad news for Loki if Egg broke out of the ground. This meant that not only would he not be able to successfully kill Egu, but he would also suffer retaliation from Egu himself in the future. Don't think that Ege's body of a god is so huge that his moving speed will be very slow. With the divine power accumulated by Ego's body over millions of years, it is completely possible to drive this huge body effortlessly, making movements that are more flexible and swift than Loki's. Even if Loki himself can avoid Ego's attack, but the monk can't escape the temple if he can escape. Ego knows that he is from Asgard, and Surti may not be able to play at that time, and Asgard will usher in a Ragnarok. Damn it, how did it become like this? In the movie Guardians of Galaxy, those few rotten fish and rotten shrimps can be easily dealt with. How come it's difficult for me to upgrade to hell? No, you must not let this guy get out. Otherwise, I will become a sinner of Asgard. Things had gotten to the point where Loki had given up on his original plan to kill Egg. Now he can't be sure where the other party has transferred his core. To change the current situation, Loki has only one choice: to freeze Ego and the entire planet together. He began to frantically extract the energy of the power gem from the Millennium Block, and even the Frost Titan's blue skin, which had been covered by Odin's magic, was exposed at this time. Loki constantly challenged his limits. His body temperature was dropping at a terrifying speed, until his body temperature was infinitely close to the critical state of absolute zero, Ice Age. With the release of the skills, the energy gathered in his body was instantly transformed into frozen air, and then starting from his body, it began to spread rapidly towards the entire planet. And this whole process lasted a full day and night. Through his own body, Loki constantly converts the energy transmitted by the 1,000-year building blocks into frozen air, adding ice seals on the surface of the planet over and over again. Eventually, Loki was exhausted and had to stop. And at the moment, this planet, together with Yago's body, has been frozen under the Ice Age and turned into a large ice ball with a temperature infinitely close to absolute zero. If there were no accidents, at least within 100,000 years, Igu would not be able to escape from the ice. Chapter 36, Part 1. Stopping the move of the power of freezing, Loki raised his hand to wipe the sweat from his brow. Using the power of freezing for one day and one night to release the move of a Ice Age. Even if there are thousands of years of building blocks constantly providing magic power, it is not a small test for Loki's spirit. And even if he managed to freeze Egg now, Loki wouldn't be happy at all. After all, his goal at the beginning was to kill this scumbag, but now he just used Ice Age to freeze Ego. Loki knew very well that this was not a hopeless situation for the god Egg. With a near-eternal life, this long 100,000-year freeze can be regarded by Egu as a short nap. And when Egg wakes up from this hibernation, perhaps Loki has already disappeared in the long river of time. But this time the car rollover is not all bad. At least Loki knows through this incident that when he wanders outside in the future, he should at least hide his true identity first. When he and Egg's duplication first met on the planet Morag, the other party identified his origin through the conspicuous Asgard costume on his body. This also led to when the subsequent developments gradually exceeded his control. For the sake of Asgard's safety, Loki had to continue to bite the bullet and stand in a stalemate with Egg. Immediately after realizing this, Loki magically changes his clothes and appearance. Not only that, he also planned to go to Nidavellir to find Ai Chui, and then make a mask for himself. Because wearing a mask is easy to give others a psychological hint, making it easy to think that the person's true face is under the mask. In this way, even if Loki takes off his mask while eating, others will think that his magically conjured appearance is his real appearance. Loki's hand is really a panda order. The bamboo shoots are home. The title of the god of lies and deception is indeed well-deserved. Loki had come to Nidavellir with ease, and Ai Tree knew why he came when he saw him. Tell me, this time I want to help you build something weird and weird again. Loki shook his head and smiled wryly. When did I leave such a bad impression on you? That being said, Loki was not at all polite to Ai Tree when it came time to ask. I want a mask this time. You can use the shape and material yourself. There are really no weird requests. After listening to Loki's request, Ai Chui suddenly laughed heartily. Hey, what's the matter with you? Have you received professional training? Besides, is what I said so funny? Loki looked at Ai Chui depressedly, not knowing what kind of nerves the other party was having. Ha ha ha, this has nothing to do with you. No. It seems to have something to do with you again. In short, it's been a long time since I met a party like you who allows me to play freely without mentioning any conditions. Do you think I can be unhappy? Ha ha ha, oh, I see. Loki understood instantly, nodded and thought in his heart. As a worker who also had experience with Party B in his previous life, Loki expressed his understanding of Ai Chui's mood at the moment. But as if recalling some unpleasant memories, Loki quickly shook his head again, looking at Ai Tree with pity in his eyes. Ai Chui is still too naive. Sometimes, the party who doesn't ask for anything is the scariest party. Loki just muttered in his heart, and couldn't help shivering. Fortunately, Ai Chui met himself, and Loki was not one of those party who didn't know anything but liked to point fingers, asked people to change, and finally adopted the first version of the plan. He wants to protect Ai Chui's dream, and let Ai Chui know that Party A also has a heartwarming little angel like him. Then, well, Ai Chui, I think the small details here are still a bit awkward. Can you change it? What does the treatment of this place want to express? I don't want you to think, I want me to think. Okay, stop making trouble and listen to me. Well, after constant trial and error, it seems that the first version is the most suitable for me. Ai Chui, please work harder and change the design back. After speaking, Loki turned his head and saw Ai Chui's blood-red eyes, and he was still holding the big hammer he used when forging metal in his hand. Loki, you are so weak. I'm going to kill you. In the end, after experiencing Ai Chui's pursuit round after round, Loki successfully brought Ai Chui back to Asgard with the Wood of the World tree. But the next time Loki wants to ask Ai Chui for help, it will probably be 100 years later. Because of the psychological shadow he left on Ai Chui, it won't take 100 years to recover. Hey, Heimdall, long time no see again. Loki, who teleported back using the flying Thor, did not forget his mission as the god of mischief. When he had just returned from studying in Kamartaj, he had secretly left Thor's magic mark on Heimdall's shoulder while they were chatting. It was supposed to surprise Heimdall by showing up at his side while he was on duty. But later, because of various things, this prank plan was temporarily shelved. But Loki's mischief may be late, but never absent. Just taking advantage of this opportunity to return to Asgard from Nidavellir, Loki wanted to complete this prank that had been stranded for several years. So that's where it started, the scene where Loki pops up next to Heimdall to say hello. But Loki forgot a very important thing, that is, he is not only wearing a mask with a strange shape, but also using magic to change his appearance. In this case, Heimdall's first reaction as the Guardian of Asgard was to swing the Guardian sword in his hand and chop off the head of Loki, the stranger who suddenly appeared. Unexpectedly, Loki, who Heimdall said, "If you are a brother, come and slash me." Before he could react, he was directly chopped into ice slag by this sword. Fortunately, the power of freezing has the passive skill of elementalization, otherwise Loki's joke this time would be a big one. Loki's elemental body shattered into ice shards quickly returned to its original shape, but Heimdall's second sword followed. "Wait a minute, Heimdall. It's me, I'm Loki." Seeing that Heimdall was about to attack him, Loki hurriedly opened his mouth to reveal his identity while narrowly dodging the opponent's sword. But what Loki didn't expect was that after hearing Loki revealing his identity, Heimdall swung his sword faster. How could Loki not know now that Heimdall had already seen through his identity and wanted to seize this opportunity to take revenge? It can be said that this time Loki not only failed to play a prank, but was also tricked by Heimdall. He could only quickly take off the mask on his face, remove the disguise of magical changes, and reveal his original shape in front of Heimdall, which dispelled Heimdall's idea of continuing to attack. Alas! Heimdall sighed in disappointment as he sheathed his sword, obviously dissatisfied with not being able to teach Loki a painful lesson. Wow! Loki immediately felt his heart pierce. I didn't expect, you Heimdall, a guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, also betrayed. Chapter 37, Part 1. But what about Loki? As his future brother-in-law, Loki definitely chose to forgive Heimdall. But Loki couldn't help but think to himself in the bottom of his heart, "Humph! Heimdall, what you stabbed into my body today. Let's see if repay it for you from now on. Here. After bidding him farewell under Heimdall's angry eyes, Loki went to the palace to greet Odin and Frigg according to the old rules, and cancelled the leave by the way. From Odin, both Sif and Thor are now out on missions, not in Asgard. After coming out of the palace hall, Loki went back to his room to rest. After using Ice Age to freeze Igo for 1 day and 1 night, Loki hasn't rested until now. In the days that followed, Loki once again lived a routine life. After returning to Asgard this time, Loki has no plans to leave the 9 realms in a short time. More precisely, Loki doesn't intend to leave the 9 realms until he completes the system tasks. The task of Prince's Revenge has been delayed for nearly 20 years. If you don't complete it as soon as possible, you won't be able to get the system reward for a long time in the future. The main content of the mission is for Loki to avenge Lauf, the Frost Titan king who abandoned him, and to realize the rule of the Jotunheim kingdom and become the real king. In other words, to accomplish this task, 2 goals need to be achieved. First, defeat Laufey and use his own strong strength to prove that it was wrong for Laufey to abandon himself in the first place. Second, replace Laufey as king of Jotunheim. The first goal needs to be accomplished by Loki with his own strength, while the second goal needs to be accomplished with the help of Asgard's power. So after a long time of careful thinking, Loki thought of 3 ways to accomplish this task: top, middle, and bottom. The worst strategy is the simplest and the longest time-consuming. There is only one word in the core strategy, that is, wait. Wait until the peace agreement between Asgard and Jotunheim expires, and wait until the end of the law is approaching. Laufey, who was dying, could definitely not be Loki's opponent. At that time, Loki was the royal blood of Jotunheim, and Asgard was the backer. Succession to the throne became definitely a matter of course, and the task was naturally completed. But Loki is the least likely to choose this method. After all, the long waiting period consumes his most precious growth time. The core strategy of Zhongzi is cheat. The middle strategy is more difficult than the low strategy, but if everything goes smoothly enough, the task can be completed soon. In this cheat, Loki not only has to fool Asgard, but also has to fool Jotunheim. Asgard's Bifrost is made of a special crystal material, because this material is very sensitive to space wormholes, resulting in many natural space intersections throughout Asgard. These intersecting points of space are very hidden and few people know about them. As long as you can find these intersecting points, you can leave Asgard and go to other countries in the 9 realms without going through Bifrost. Loki hadn't been to Jotunheim before, so he couldn't teleport there by flying Thor. If you want to deceive Odin and hide your entry into Jotunheim, you must first find the intersecting point from Asgard to Jotunheim. To complete this step, it can only be regarded as cheating Asgard, and to cheat Jotunheim, Loki needs to use magic to change into Lauf's appearance after defeating Lauf, and come out to rule the entire Jotunheim as a fake Lauf. As for the best strategy that Loki thinks is the most effective, has the highest success rate, and is also the most perfect solution, the key lies in 2 words: open. Don't forget, he, Loki, is a time traveler, and he also has the gold finger of this system. Although his gold finger is a little less sophisticated than the systems in other novels, it still provides a lot of powerful skills. And this has to mention the reward he got from the system when he completed the 3rd side mission. Skill: Flower and Mirror and Moon and Water, complete hypnotic ability, proficiency, 80%, Skill Introduction. The Zanpakuto Hajikyu skill from a hairsprayer, the effect is to control the opponent's 5 senses and magic power induction, so that he can completely believe in the appearance, shape, quality, touch, and even smell of a specific object as the master wants. The precondition for full hypnotic ability to be activated is that the opponent needs to see the host using the skill, flower in mirror and moon in water. But as long as you touch the host before the full hypnotic ability effect is activated, you can avoid the control of the 5 senses. The conclusion of the full hypnotic ability skill effect is shatter, shatter. For those who completely rely on the 5 senses to observe the world, the skill effect of mirror flower and water moon, complete hypnotic ability is invincible. In other words, at least in the 9 realms, there is no living body that is immune to the effects of infernal beauty, full hypnotic ability. And with this skill, Loki can pull off the biggest prank he has ever planned in front of everyone. Loki will act as the screenwriter and director of this prank, and through the ability of complete hypnotic ability, fictionalize events one by one. He planned to use 20 days to show the whole prank to the end. Isn't he very bold? And in the end, the events one by one will all be connected in series to form a complete storyline. And the main plot of the whole story, Loki, has already been planned. At the beginning, let Lauf bring his own men to Asgard for a visit on the grounds of promoting friendly exchanges between the two peoples. During the period, it was discovered that Loki, the second prince of Asgard, was actually his own flesh and blood that had been abandoned by him. In a rage, Lauf wanted to take action to destroy the shame of the Frost Titan family, but after the real fight, he found that the baby he once thought was a defective product had now become a stronger existence than him. Lauf, who lost to Loki, finally realized his conscience and realized his mistakes back then. In order to make up for his debt to Loki, Lauf, who was so guilty, proposed in front of Odin himself that he decided to hand over his throne to Loki to inherit. Definitely there must be a lot of content and details to fill in, but if Loki's prank can be successfully completed, he can avoid all risks and restrictions, complete the task in the shortest possible time, and take away the one he already has. Long-awaited system rewards. That was the only time since Loki's system awakening, in the mission introduction, he saw the system rewards with the word super as a prefix. In order to get the reward, Loki can't wait to finish the big show. Chapter 38 What If I Can't Hold It Back? Part 1. Woo, this is really not a good place to live. No wonder Lauf wanted to invade Midgard back then. If you want me to stay in this ghostly place where the seasons are like winter and the sun is never seen for thousands of years, I definitely can't stand it. Jotunheim. Just arrived in this cold and barren country, Loki couldn't help complaining. Even the Frost Titan, which was born in the cold, can't bear the environment of this land. One can imagine how harsh the conditions here are. Not only did Loki take the initiative to come to this extremely cold place, but in order not to attract anyone's attention, it took a lot of time to find the intersection point between Asgard and this space. Leave a mark here. Next time you come here, just fly Thor. Outside of the Frost Titan's palace, if this can be called a palace, Loki has left a magic imprint of flying Thor. It is really the architectural style of Jotunheim, which was damaged by the war in Syria, which makes it difficult to associate it with the word royal palace. You have come so far to die, Asgardian. Loki was about to step into the palace hall when he heard the sound that was constantly reflected by the surrounding ice walls and entered his ears. He didn't make any disguise today, and he was wearing the royal clothes of Asgard. Coupled with his appearance similar to other Asgardians, it was no wonder that Lauf called him an Asgardian as soon as he opened his mouth. You are so angry, Your Highness Lauf. I thought your temper should have been beaten by Odin 20 years ago. If we only talk about the firepower of verbal attacks, Loki can probably reach level single universe. What he said was equivalent to directly uncovering Lauf's scar, and then did not sprinkle salt, but directly sprayed fire on it to roast it. Now, even Jotunheim's coldness cannot suppress Lauf's anger. Odin is a murderer, a robber. Boy, I tell you, don't think that Jotunheim and Asgard have signed a peace agreement, so I dare not do anything to you. Believe it or not, even if I kill you now, Odin will not do anything to me for the so-called peace of the 9 realms. Lauf's angry roar echoed in the empty palace of Frost Titan, and with Lauf's anger, Loki could feel that even the surrounding temperature dropped a lot. It turns out that what he said just now really aroused Lauf's murderous intentions. But Loki didn't panic at all. Instead, he showed a disdainful smile on his face and said calmly, Lauf, since I appeared here, you have made 2 mistakes. The first point, based on my place of birth, you shouldn't call me an Asgard, but a Jotunheim. Saying that, Loki took off the magical disguise that Odin had set for him, revealing Blue's skin, which was originally the blood of Frost Titan. Second point, from the perspective of strength, you are not my opponent at all. So even if you dare to attack, it is absolutely impossible to kill me. I'm not targeting anyone. I mean, everyone here is happy. The voice fell, and the palace fell into an unprecedented silence. The silence was not only because of Loki revealing his true identity, but also because of Loki's last arrogant speech. But soon, Lauf's wanton laughter broke the silent atmosphere. Ha 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 ha. I said how the child who was abandoned by me to the apes disappeared later. It turns out that Odin is not only a murderer and a robber, but also a scrap collector. Ha 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 ha. So you came here today because you want to avenge me, my biological father? However, it's 1,000 years too early for a flower like you that grew up in a greenhouse to challenge Jotunheim and Frost Titan. Hey! Facing Lauf's ridicule and insult, Loki's face became sad, and he couldn't help sighing while resting his left hand on his forehead. This is really a headache. Originally, I didn't intend to kill you. Now that you say something like this, what should I do if I don't hold back when I do it later? The script behind it will be completely messed up, gone. While Loki was speaking, a vague black mist began to emerge from his body. At this moment, all the eyes in the palace staring at him, the intruder, will see a scene of flowers in the mirror. Kill him, little ones. Following Lauf's command, the Frost Titans who had been hiding in the palace all jumped out of the shadows and surrounded Loki tightly. Even the 2 tens of meters tall monsters frozen on both sides of the main hall were awakened by Lauf. But Loki changed his previous sad look, and the smile on his face gradually changed. Come on, let the storm come more violently. 2 huge amounts of monsters and hundreds of Frost Titans began to exert their own killing instincts, constantly attacking Loki. These lethal killing moves landed on Loki one after another, but instead of Loki's screams, there was a sneer that sent chills down the spine. Jejejea, is this all you guys are capable of? Frost Titan's ability is not used like you guys. Let me teach you how to play with ice. Frozen moment. A large amount of freezing air spewed out from Loki's body in an instant, and those Frost Titans who rushed towards him one after another couldn't react at all, and were frozen by the cold air with terrified expressions on their faces. Aren't you going to do it yourself? King of Jotunheim and Frost Titan, Your Highness Lauf. Lauf's red eyes were full of anger, but he didn't act rashly because of Loki's provocation. Because the freezing ability that Loki showed just now completely exceeded his expectations, and this effect is not inferior to Casket of Ancient Winters at all. Since you won't come down, I'll go up in person. After all, I'm very interested in the throne of Jotunheim. Saying that, Loki's figure dissipated like mist, and then appeared in front of Lauf again under Lauf's astonished gaze. Why? Didn't you say you were going to kill me? I've already sent it to you personally, so don't force me to do it first. After all, I might not be able to help but kill you if I do it. Biological Father. Chapter 39, Part 1. Jotunheim, in the Palace of the King. Boom, 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 boom. Lauf was kneeling on one knee, punching the ground repeatedly. His fist was covered with thick ice, and there were sharp ice picks on the surface of his fist. When he turned his attention to the place where Lauf punched and dropped, at the moment had already been smashed into a deep hole on the ground. Inside the deep pit were some broken strips of cloth and a bloody corpse. Although the face of the corpse could no longer be distinguished, it was not difficult to tell from the color and pattern of the cloth strips that the real identity of the corpse was Loki. However, the strange thing is that Lauf, as the winner, not only did not stop because of Loki's death, but the expression on his face was not so much venting, but madness after being terrified to the extreme. It didn't take long, though, to find out why Lauf had become so weird. I saw that in the deep pit that was smashed by Lauf's fist, the corpse that was almost turned into a pulp began to squirm gradually. The squirming pieces of flesh came together little by little, and slowly spliced together into 2 bloody arms. These arms firmly grasped Lauf's falling fist, preventing Lauf from continuing to attack. At the same time, the remaining pieces of meat continued to squirm towards the 2 hands, and finally formed a complete body again. Loki, who had been killed by Lauf just now, was resurrected with a strange and evil smile at this moment. Ah! Seeing this scene, Lauf began to twist his body frantically, broke his hands free and hugged his head and shouted. At this moment, even Lauf, who has lived for thousands of years and seen countless big scenes, couldn't stand it and began to collapse. Because the scene that happened just now has been repeated at least 1,000 times before his eyes. Every time he thought he had killed Loki, Loki would be resurrected in various ways and stand in front of him. Is this broken? Oh, looking at you now, I don't even have the heart to hit you anymore. Loki spread his hands, with a look of unfinished thought. Facing Loki's ridicule, Lauf, who had completely collapsed, couldn't think of any resistance at all, and with huge amounts of body directly knelt down facing Loki. What is the purpose of your coming here today? If you want to take revenge on me, then you have succeeded. If you want to put forward some conditions, then no matter what the requirements are, I can promise you. But please, let me go. Oh, can you do anything? What if I want to replace you as King of Jotunheim? Loki said to Lauf with interest. Lauf's pupils shrank when he heard Loki's condition and subconsciously wanted to refuse. But when the words came to his lips, he realized that he couldn't open his mouth because he was too scared. Loki shook his head, and his tone became indifferent. It seems that you haven't realized the gap between us, so I'll let you see how cruel the truth is. As Loki's voice fell, Lauf felt that the scene in front of him began to change constantly, and his eyes gradually blurred. When his sight became clear again, all the scenes in his memory had disappeared, replaced by a scene like hell. In the entire palace, there are corpses of Frost Titan everywhere, and everyone's death is extremely tragic, just like those Loki who were killed by him before. How about it? Don't the death conditions of your subordinates look familiar? That's right, don't doubt yourself, that's what you think. One of them counts as one, but they all died at the hands of you, the king. Your 5 senses were manipulated by me at the time, so you may not be able to feel it. You loyal subordinates, when you see the king you are loyal to kill yourself, that expression, Heske, 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 it's really wonderful gone. Lauf, if you don't want to give me the throne, you don't want to become a lonely man, do you? Lauf's eyes were out of focus and his head was bowed. At this moment, he finally gave up his pride as the king of Jotunheim and his dignity as a Frost Titan, and said to Loki, I agree. The throne of Jotunheim is yours from now on. But then, Loki's reaction was very unexpected. He shook his head at Lauf and said, No. Lauf was stunned instantly. Isn't that what you asked for? Labor and management have agreed now, but you say no? Loki, no. Just your consent is not enough. Asgard is the ruler of the 9 realms. This matter must be approved by Odin. By the way, I don't seem to have told you. My name is Loki Odinson. I have already prepared the script for you. Tomorrow, you will take your own men and follow the arrangement on the script. After the matter is completed, I will spare your life so that you can continue to eat and drink in this ghost place, etc. Die. Did you understand what I said? Lauf turned his head and looked around. I understand everything, but where do I have any subordinates now? They are all dead in my hands. Loki looked at Lauf with disdain. That's why you can't win me. Everything you think you see is actually what I want you to see. Since I'm going to be the king of Jotunheim, how can I let these laborers who will serve me in the future die? Break it, mirror flower water moon. Once again, Lauf's eyes began to blur, and the scene in front of him continued to change. After everything was settled, Lauf looked around the palace again. At this time, there were no corpses and bloodstains, and even the traces of the fierce battle just now disappeared without a trace. All the Frost Titans were hiding intact in the shadow of the palace, and even himself at the moment was sitting on the throne. In the main hall, Loki's figure has disappeared. If it weren't for the script in Lauf's hand, he would have thought that everything was a dream he had. However, until at the moment, Lauf did not dare to 100% determine whether everything he saw, heard, smelled, and felt was absolutely true. Compared with doubts about the reality of the whole world, the fear of Loki has become the only thing Lauf can confirm. Chapter 40, Part 1. Get up, Vico. If you sleep on, you won't be in time for the wedding of the king and queen. On a huge amount of ice bed, a Frost Titan teenager named Vico rubbed his eyes that were still a little confused, with an obvious sleepiness on his face. But even so, he still managed to get up from the bed. The Vico family lived in a 2-story igloo. They went downstairs from the bedroom on the 2nd floor. Vico went to the bathroom on the 1st floor to wash up and put on a grand dress. Today is the wedding day of Loki, the king of Jotunheim, and Sif, the goddess of Asgard. For this reason, the people all over the country spontaneously held celebrations to bless the wedding of Loki and Sif. The Vico family, who lived in the royal capital, was fortunate to be able to witness the wedding ceremony outside the palace today. The reason why Loki's wedding has received so much attention from the people is not because of his status as a king, but because of the changes he has brought to Jotunheim since he inherited the throne. 50 years ago, the previous ruler of Jotunheim, King Lauf, suddenly announced his abdication during his visit to Asgard and handed over the throne to the current king Loki. At first this decision was opposed by Odin, the king of Asgard, but under Lauf's repeated insistence, Odin decided to give Loki a chance to prove himself. Odin will only approve of Lauf's decision if Loki successfully passes the 3 tests he set. Neither Lauf nor Loki disputed this. Therefore, Odin set 3 checkpoints for Loki that can verify virtue, wisdom, and skill. The first level is a test of courage. Loki needs to take a bone from the treasure trove of the Asgard wolves. Those who enter the treasure house of wolves will have the most terrifying hallucinations in their minds. If you want to complete the task, you must overcome your own fear. The second level is a task of testing wisdom. Loki needs to steal a bird's egg from the top of the mountain where the Asgard condor hovers, and protect it carefully. The task of this level was not completed until all 3 tests were completed and the bird eggs were not damaged. The third level is a test of character. Loki needs to retrieve a piece of gold in an old mine full of gold. If you can't overcome your greed and take multiple pieces of gold, the mission will be considered a failure. After passing 3 checkpoints and obtaining 3 items, Loki still needs to take them back to the palace and hand them over to Odin to judge whether Loki has completed all tasks and passed this test. After the trial began, Loki first came to the first level to test his courage. To pass this level, Loki needs to enter the wolf pack's treasure house to take a bone. Although there are wolves around here, if Loki just enters to take a bone, he will not be attacked. The hardest part of this test is overcoming your own fears. As Loki went deeper, a mist began to rise around him. At the same time, Loki's most frightening visions began to appear in his vision. In the vision, Hela, Infinite Thanos, Celestial Group, Kong the Conqueror, one after another powerful enemies appeared in Asgard. They killed Odin, Frigga, Sif, Thor, and many innocent Asgard people. But the weak self was powerless to resist and could only watch Ragnarok come. Desperation began to permeate Loki's body. In the fog of the wolf pack's treasure house, Loki lost his courage. His legs weighed 1,000 pounds, and he couldn't move forward. However, just as Odin, who had been watching from the sidelines, was about to stop the test, the fog in the treasury began to lift. And Loki also woke up from the illusion and easily got a bone in the wolf pack's treasury. Seeing that Loki successfully passed the first test, Odin had a gratified expression on his face. But what Odin may not know is that it is not his courage that Loki can pass this level, but the skills rewarded by the system. In ninja genjutsu, there is an auxiliary genjutsu that can deal with this situation. Magic Mirror World Turn. Decipher the illusion cast by the enemy on oneself and completely reflect the effect of the spell on the enemy. It was at this critical moment that Loki remembered this illusion, successfully dispelling the fog and getting the bone required for customs clearance. Then Loki came to the second level to test his wisdom. For Loki, it can be said that this level is not difficult. As the god of tricks, he may not have great wisdom, but he definitely does not lack small cleverness. After Loki came to the cliff where the condor was, he directly used the skill of Mirror Flower and Water Moon, complete hypnotic ability. The condor, whose 5 senses are dominated by Loki, took the initiative to grab an egg with his claws, and then followed Loki. With the condor by his side, helping him carry and protect the eggs, Loki doesn't have to worry about the eggs being damaged during the third mission and on the way back. In this way, one person and one eagle came to the third and last level of this test, the Old Mine. This level will test Loki's character. The Old Mine is a cave full of gold almost everywhere, and it is a difficult test for anyone to be able to take only a piece of gold in such a place. But in Loki's opinion, this is the easiest of the 3 levels. It wasn't that Loki was ever noble, or that he didn't like gold. It's just because compared with the rewards that can be obtained from the system after completing the mission, mere gold is worthless in Loki's eyes. Loki pulled out his dagger, pried out a piece of gold from the wall of the Old Mine, and turned away without a trace of regret. In the end, Loki successfully passed the test set by Odin with the proof of completing the 3 major levels, and became the new king of Jotunheim. After Loki succeeded to the throne, in order to win the hearts of the people as soon as possible, the first thing he did was to change the entire natural environment of Jotunheim by himself. The most fundamental reason why Jotunheim is so cold is actually determined by its position in the World Tree. In the World Tree system composed of 9 kingdoms, below Jotunheim is Niflheim, the underworld of ice and snow. Niflheim is a world made entirely of ice, snow, and death. The biting cold wind that blows continuously in Jotunheim all year round comes from Niflheim. In the World Tree, above Jotunheim is the kingdom of elves, Alfheim. As a race that loves natural plants and yearns for light, almost all places in Alfheim are covered by towering trees planted by elves. And this also almost completely blocked the light that should have entered Jotunheim through Alfheim, and Jotunheim fell into darkness. The dark surroundings and icy winds have resulted in Jotunheim's desolate and harsh natural environment. In order to change this, Loki first found the connection point between Jotunheim and Niflheim on the World Tree system. Then Loki used the energy of the 1,000-year-old building blocks and the skill of freezing power to build a great wall of ice thousands of meters high, blocking the biting cold wind blowing from Jotunheim and Niflheim. Immediately afterwards, Loki found a young fixed star in the universe, and used the ability to fly Thor's mind to bring the entire planet back to the galaxy where Jotunheim is located. In this way, with the efforts of Loki, he successfully dispelled the haze and cold of Jotunheim, and brought the first ray of light to the people of this country since they were born. So Loki in Jotunheim still has the reputation of the Sun King. Behind the name is the great deeds that Loki has accomplished. Definitely, the change of the environment is only the first step that Loki has taken to change the country. In the next 10 years, Loki has successively carried out reforms in politics, economy, military, medical care, education, and other aspects. From the status of Loki in the hearts of all Jotunheimers today, it can be seen that these changes have achieved huge amounts of success, and the lives of the people are getting better and better. While Loki was dealing with these national affairs, he did not forget to solve his own lifelong affairs. The relationship between him and Sif, after 50 years of watering and careful cultivation, is finally bearing fruit, and the two will join hands to enter the palace of marriage. In this regard, the parents of Odin and Frigga are still very happy, although the result is a little bit wrong. Sif married Loki instead of Thor. But no matter what, as long as it is their daughter-in-law. Chapter 40, Part 2. The only two who aren't too happy are probably Heimdall and Thor. Thor is a little better. His feelings for Sif, to put it bluntly, is the young Mwai, and it is not an unforgettable love. Although there is a little sadness in my heart caused by the unilateral loss of love, but more blessings to Sif. As for Loki, forget about blessings or anything. Not cursing him is already Thor's greatest tolerance as a big brother. He is obviously a younger brother, but he is ahead of himself in every way. Be the first to be the king, the first to be the husband of Sif. It's strange that Thor can bless him. Not to mention that Loki had left an indelible psychological shadow on him before. Fortunately, Loki has been so busy dealing with Jotunheim's affairs these years that he has no time to continue torturing him. But Heimdall didn't have such a good attitude as Thor. Heimdall, who was sitting at the wedding scene, gritted his teeth and looked at Loki, the bastard who abducted his precious sister, and his teeth were about to be crushed. If Odin and Frigga were not there, Heimdall would have rushed to stop the wedding. In any case, the wedding between the king of Jotunheim and the goddess of Asgard finally came to a successful conclusion. After sending all the guests away, the two returned to the palace. The rest was indescribable. Chapter 41, Part 1. Task 4. Congratulations to the host for becoming the king of Jotunheim. Please make persistent efforts to become a wise king. After the task is completed, you will receive a generous reward from the system. Ding, it is detected that the host has completed the task according to the system requirements, and the reward settlement is started. The mission is settled. Congratulations to the host for receiving the reward for this mission. The reward skills have been issued. Please check it yourself. Ding, it is detected that the host has found a partner who can be with him for life, and his life has entered a new stage. To congratulate the host on his wedding, this system is presenting a special gift package. Please check it by yourself. A moment in the spring night is worth 1,000 gold, and the bridal chamber cries all night. After an in-depth exchange with Sif last night, Loki is now in harmony with Yin and Yang, with mutual support between hardness and softness, and he feels refreshed. What made him even more excited was that when he got up early in the morning, he saw the system reminding him that the fourth main task had been completed, and the system rewards had been distributed. And the system, which has always been stingy, even sent a special gift package to his wedding attendant. Because he was busy with errands last night, the system directly muted the notification. However, this kind of anticipation of being able to personally reveal the reward content of the system will actually make Loki even more excited. So when he saw these two system prompts, Loki couldn't help but sing loudly. After waiting for a long time, I finally waited for today, and I dreamed for a long time and finally realized my dream. Think about how long it has been since Loki received a reward from the system. Since he became the king of Jotunheim and completed the mission content of Mission 3, Prince's Revenge, he has hardly received any system rewards. Then the Mission 4 released by the system is another long-term mission that cannot be completed in a short period of time. Loki feels that he has been completely controlled by the system now. Although the system sent out 3 side missions one after another, what should I say about the rewards I got? I can't say it's very common, but it's not very meaningful. It's all about the booster pack for getting the reward skill in Mission 3. For Loki, whose strength has broken through the level Godfather, to describe it in one sentence is tasteless to eat, but a pity to throw away. But this time is different. Although the rewards of side missions have always been uneven, the rewards of main missions have never disappointed Loki. And Loki is also full of expectations for the big gift package of the system follower. After all, who doesn't like to open a blind box? Loki didn't directly click on the content of the system rewards rashly, but first washed his face seriously, and then burned 3 sticks of incense with a sense of ritual. After completing all this, he opened the system interface again, ready to view the task rewards and special gift packages issued by the system. However, just when he was about to open the task reward, an unexpected event interrupted his opening of the package. The magic imprint I left in the Kamartaj Supreme Mage Holy Place has been activated. The last time Loki's sigil was activated was the last time. At that time, the former Supreme Mage Dyesher sacrificed his soul to build Kamartaj, the hero's soul-dwelling place, Soul Castle. The young Mage Yao inherited the mantle of Dyesher and became the new Supreme Mage. And this Mage Yao is actually the future teacher of Doctor Strange, the famous Ancient One mage. Since the last time they parted ways with Ancient One, the two haven't seen each other again. Loki was busy with Jotunheim's business, and Ancient One didn't initiate contact. This time Kamartaj's magic seal was activated again, and Loki didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. Because of being too tired last night, Sif has not woken up yet. Loki found the guards of the palace, left a message to Sif, and then used the flying Thor to disappear into the palace of Jotunheim. As soon as Loki teleported to the holy place of the Supreme Mage, the whole person immediately became vigilant. He had a keen perception that there was a strong aura of dark energy remaining here. This is the Mephisto of the dark dimension, the breath of Dormammu. Loki is very familiar with this feeling. He was once attacked by a mage who was bewitched by Dormammu. Coupled with the fact that there was no one in the at the moment holy place, Loki began to wonder if Ancient One had been attacked by Dormammu believers, and then sent a distress signal to himself through the magic imprint at a critical moment. But thinking about it carefully, it seems unlikely. In Loki's impression, the Ancient One 50 years ago was already a very powerful mage. In addition, after Ancient One became the Supreme Mage, Loki also taught the opponent the magic of the Flying Thor series and the Spiral Pill series created by himself, and at the same time mastered artifacts such as the Eye of Agamotto. Loki couldn't imagine how powerful the enemy must be to capture the Ancient One without causing any damage to the holy place. And even if the enemy is really strong, Ancient One is no match. With the secret door of Kamar-Taj and the Flying Thor that Loki taught her, two big space magics are in hand, who can stop Ancient One if she wants to leave. There's something weird. There must be something weird about it. Loki frowned and mused. Chapter 42, Part 1. In just a few minutes, Loki has ruled out 9981 impossible hypotheses in his mind. Just when Loki was about to change his mind and continue to reason about what happened in the holy place, Ancient One stepped out of the portal and appeared in front of him. When Ancient One saw Loki for the first time, her eyes not only showed her surprise that Loki appeared in the holy place, but this surprised look was fleeting and was quickly covered up by the happy smile on her face. Loki looked at the clothes on Ancient One's body. Her clothes were not damaged, and she was very neatly dressed. She didn't look like she just went through a fierce battle, but her face was pale, and there were still beads of sweat on her forehead. It was obvious that there was something wrong with her current physical condition. But what shocked Loki most was the appearance of Ancient One at the moment. The two hadn't seen each other in 50 years. But the appearance of Ancient One still looks the same as when Loki first met her 50 years ago. Combined with some of the information he knew as a time traveler, the truth of this whole matter will be revealed soon. Loki guessed that Ancient One at the moment should have been exposed to the energy of the Dark Dimension and successfully used this energy to delay his own aging. That's why Ancient One at the moment looks so young. But stealing energy from Dormammu and using it is not an easy task. Ancient One may have been affected by Dormammu in his mind during this process, causing the dark energy in his body to lose control. And she entered the mirror space in order to control the energy that conflicted with Waishandi's white magic power. After some hard work, although she successfully controlled the dark energy in her body was still inevitably affected, which resulted in her current pale and weak appearance. But she didn't notice until she entered the mirror space that the runaway dark energy accidentally activated the magic mark Loki left in the holy place. That's why Ancient One was so surprised when he saw Loki for the first time when he returned to the holy place after solving his physical problems. I sensed that the magic imprint of holy place was activated just now, so I rushed over to take a look. But now, it seems that there is nothing that needs my help here. Could it be that you want to ask me to catch up on the past? Ancient One's expression was a little stiff, his mouth half opened, but he didn't know how to explain it to Loki. Seeing her appearance, Loki stopped playing around with her and said straight to the point. You tried to communicate with the Dark Dimension. I can sense the traces of black magic left in the room. Ancient One just lowered his head in shame, but still didn't respond to Loki. I can tell even if you don't open your mouth. As a mortal, you have gained immortal youth, unless you are the illegitimate daughter of an Asgard who stayed in Midgard. Otherwise, this kind of thing that obviously violates the laws of nature, only black magic can do it. This time, Ancient One finally did not continue to keep silent. I did not steal energy from the Dark Dimension in pursuit of immortal youth and immortal life. Kamar-Taj must have a supreme mage who can take on important responsibilities, otherwise, in the face of more and more frequent dimensional intrusions, Midgard will not be able to resist those powerful dimensional Mephistas. I have been trying to find a suitable heir among the mages like the Yesher mage did. But as I get older and my body functions gradually deteriorate, I have not been able to find a candidate who meets the requirements. So until I find a suitable candidate for the next supreme mage, I must persevere. For this reason, even if I have to use the power of black magic, I will not hesitate. Loki sighed. Your requirements are too high, Ancient One. Derisi once said that you are the most outstanding mage among all previous supreme mages. If you use yourself as the standard to select the next successor, it will definitely be difficult to find a suitable candidate. Why not try to relax some standards? Ancient One shook his head. It's not that I don't want to relax the standards, but the reality does not allow me to lower the requirements. For Mephista, the dimension with almost eternal life, they will only become stronger and stronger. If one day our Kamar-Taj can't keep up with the enemy's growing strength, then we will be helpless in the face of invasion. Such a thing will be devastating to our dimension. Blow. So every supreme mage must become the best one among the previous supreme mages. Because only in this way can he support Kamar-Taj's inheritance and responsibility and continue to move forward. Loki nodded thoughtfully, Indeed, what Ancient One said. For Mephisto, the dimension with endless life, eternal time is the capital for them to become stronger. Dimensional Mephistos can afford countless failures for the occasional success. But on Kamartaj's side, as long as they fail once, they will only be greeted with destruction. But how long can you last if this goes on? As long as these dark energies stay in your body for a day, Dormammu will find a way to constantly wear down your will and invade your mind. You have also realized how dangerous it was just now. Those dark energies may be out of your control at some point. If you are not careful, you may become Kamartaj's greatest enemy from the Supreme Mage. With your strength, there will be no mage who can stand up and stop you. Chapter 43, Part 1. About this problem, I have been trying to solve it. Actually, whether it is black magic or white magic, the magic power that can drive them to exert their effects is essentially the same. But if this is the case, why has there always been such a problem since the emergence of magic? Mage of one magic system cannot use magic of another magic system. After decades of research, I finally discovered that the root cause of this problem is that the magic power that mages get from the source of magic power, in addition to the most basic energy, is also mixed with the will of the corresponding god. For beginners of magic, the existence of this divine will can help mage master and use magic more easily. However, for senior mage who already has rich knowledge of magic theory and experience in using magic, the existence of this god's will actually become an obstacle for them to explore other magic. So I thought, if these impurities that interfere with mages' use of other systems of magic can be removed, leaving only the purest energy, will it be compatible with different systems of magic? And after eliminating the will of the gods, it can also solve the negative impact of Mephisto, which can be said to kill two birds with one stone. Just now I was trying to realize this idea, but it was a pity that Dormammu discovered it at the last moment, which interfered with my thoughts and caused two different magical powers in my body to conflict. However, with this experience, I am confident that after my body recovers, I will be able to succeed in my next attempt. After hearing the idea from Ancient One, Loki was shocked. Because if Ancient One's conjecture is correct, then everything makes sense why, as the blood of the Frost Titan, he can learn the magic of Asgard, but cannot learn the magic of Kamarta. In Asgard there is a very old tablet, which was born even before Asgard was founded. The slate records the birth and conquest of the first batch of gods in Midgard, and finally 4 gods persisted to the end. One of the 4 gods, the mother of the earth, Gaia, brought new life to the 9 realms. Before Loki read the content of this slate, he didn't quite understand the meaning. Today, after being inspired by Ancient One, and then contacting the mother of the earth, Gaia, which brought new vitality to the 9 realms recorded on the slate, Loki finally realized it. Is there a possibility? Aesir Protoss, Frost Titan, and even other intelligent races in the 9 kingdoms are the vitality that Gaia, the mother of the earth, brought to the 9 realms. If the Aesir Protoss and the Frost Titan ancestors have the same origin, then it is not surprising that Loki, as a necromancer with the Frost Titan blood, is able to use the magic of the Aesir Protoss. After all, the will of the gods flowing in the blood of the two is in the final analysis the will of Gaia, the mother of the earth. After figuring this out, Loki feels even more that Ancient One's idea is correct. So he continued to ask, "What are you going to do? I can't imagine what kind of means can kill the will left by the gods." Ancient One smiled mysteriously and deliberately whetted his appetite and said, "Guess what?" Loki rolled his eyes directly at Ancient One and said in a slightly threatening tone, "Can you guess me or not?" All right. I won't be fooling around, okay? In fact, it's very simple. Since there are different gods' wills and the sources of magic power of white magic and black magic, then I just need to guide these 2 wills to fight and cancel each other out. What is left is the purest magic power. Hearing the answer given by Ancient One, Loki's pupils quivered again. You are literally dancing on a wire rope. If you don't pay attention, you will fall into the abyss. This method of Ancient One is indeed very ingenious, but it is also very dangerous. If you are not careful, you may offend the gods at both ends. Moreover, this process not only requires extremely delicate control of magic power, but also requires enough patience and care from the user himself. The actual operation is definitely hell-level difficulty. That is to say, a magical genius like Ancient One can not only think of this method, but also have the confidence to try it himself without the entire conjecture being verified. If it were an ordinary person, this would simply be courting death. But now there is just a chance to verify whether the will of the gods is the key to blocking different systems of magic. Actually, I don't need to wait until your next risky attempt. I now have a chance to verify whether your speculation is correct. Because I never thought about it before, I left such a blind spot in my knowledge system. To the extent that I have obtained this thing for so many years, I actually have a treasure mountain, but I am not allowed to enter it. As Loki spoke, he summoned the Millennium Block from the void. This is the skill rewarded by the system after completing the 3rd mainline task. Since then, Loki has not carried the Millennium Brick with him, but has collected it into this space. Book friends can guess what the reward of Task 3 is. The magic power transformed from the energy of the 1,000-year building blocks is not mixed with the will of the gods. If I can use these magic powers, use the magic of Kamar Taj. Ancient One excitedly continued. That will prove that my guess is correct. Chapter 44, Part 1. When it comes to Kamar Taj's most commonly used, and also the most classic magic, it definitely belongs to a Gate of Secret Law. Wearing the sling ring, Mage mobilizes her own magic source and condenses it into a magic thread. Then, with the help of the sling ring, this is connected end to end with the magic thread, thus forming an arcane door. As long as Mage imagines the destination he wants to reach in his mind before casting the spell, he can connect the two places through the secret magic gate and reach any place he wants to go. However, for Loki, who developed the space magic of the Flying Thor series, he no longer needs to use the sling ring to help him sense the existence of space. I saw him mobilize the magic power from the 1,000-year-old building blocks, and then control the magic power to run according to the casting steps in his mind. Under Loki's one-stop operation, a secret gate connecting to the peak of Mount Everest appeared in front of Loki. Loki still couldn't believe it. Successful? Is it that simple? While Loki was still doubting himself, Ancient One, who had witnessed all this, was so excited that he started clenching his fists in celebration. However, Loki is still quite sensible. He poured cold water on Ancient One. Don't get too excited. What if it's just a coincidence? After all, black magic also has space magic similar to the arcane gate. We should verify more. Let's make a conclusion after a few spells. So next, Loki once again mobilized the energy in the Millennium building block, trying to use the second Kamar Taj magic, the Ring of Gaglador. This magic is a magic that every mage of Kamar Taj will learn when they get started, and it is also the most basic magic. After using it, two circular magic shields will appear in the hands, and mages can attack or block through the magic shields. In addition, the Ring of Gaglador is also a starting method for many magics. During actual combat, it can suddenly change its moves and catch the enemy by surprise. And this time it was the same. Loki succeeded in his first attempt, with two more solid magic shields in his hands. After that, Loki experimented with all the magics he learned from the library during his study abroad in Kamar Taj. The Shape of Yak, the Thunder of Bozak, the Mirror Space, the Ancient Lord of Hogs, the Holy Sword of Visandi, the Crimson Belt of Sidorak, the Wind of Vadum, and the Shield of Seraphim. And every magic Loki is a one-time direct success. Until this time, Loki was finally 100% sure that Ancient One's conjecture was correct, and that the will of the gods was indeed affecting the mage's spellcasting. But what excites Loki the most is not that Ancient One's speculation has been verified, but that from now on, he can finally use the magic he learned in Kamar Taj. Loki feels that today is really his lucky day, and Sif is his goddess of luck. Because since yesterday's wedding ended, something good happened to Loki when we came together today. First, the system issued a reward for completing the task, and then gave him a special gift package to congratulate him on his wedding. Before he could check what these two things were, Ancient One unexpectedly summoned him and now sent him a Kamar Taj magical family bucket. On a day like today, when the European atmosphere is overwhelming, when will the two items sent by the system, at the moment, not be opened? The rewards of the main task are definitely reserved for the last. Let me open the special gift bag that the system sends with members first and see what good things are inside. Loki couldn't wait to call out the system interface and then open the mysterious special gift bag. Ding! Congratulations to the host. You have obtained the Skill King's Treasure Excalibur Supplement Pack. To congratulate the host on his wedding, there is no price increase for this supplementary package, which contains a total of 5 swords. Durandal, the head of the 12 knights, the holy sword equipped by the holy knight Roland. Possessing 3 miracles, it is a brilliant sword that does not lose its sharpness even if the owner's magic power is exhausted. Datherton, the cursed sword owned by King Hegni of Denmark. This sword has a powerful curse that causes destruction, and all holders will go to death. This is a magic sword that, once it is pulled out, it will not take life or return to its sheath. Gulam, the artifact that Odin bestowed on Sigismund, forged by the dwarf clan with the iron of the underworld, shines with the brilliance of a hero's victory and the holy sword that represents his heroic life. Spiral Sword, the magic sword held by Chongshang hero Fergus Markroy in Celtic mythology. It can stretch and destroy opponents like a rainbow. Slaughtering Immortal Blade, the divine sword of Greek mythology, which is shaped like a sickle, with a blade on the inside. Although originally not excellent, the wounds after being injured by it are absolutely irrecoverable. This sword has the power to nullify the undead attribute. Durandar, Gulam, Spiral Sword, and Slaughtering Undead Blade are all good in terms of attributes. They can be taken back and given to Sif. She likes these things the most. As for Dasserton, what the hell is this sword has a powerful curse that will cause destruction. What if it hurts the tender skin of my family Sif? Give me Jinbao curry to eat ashes. The content of this special package is quite rich, but it's not enough to get Loki excited. Because after completing Mission 3 and obtaining the skill King's Treasure, Loki's system rewards for 3 consecutive side missions are all supplementary packs like this. Although there are not as many things as the special gift pack this time, after experiencing this kind of thing for a long time, there is no surprise at all. That's right, Loki tried his best to defeat Lauf and become the king of Jotunheim. After completing the 3rd mainline task, the skill rewarded by the system is King's Treasure. But it's just King's Treasure. The system only gave Loki an empty shell, but didn't give him the treasures that were stored in it by Jin Ying. Sure enough, the system was still the same system, as stingy as ever. However, the reward of this skill is definitely a surprise for Loki. After all, who is not a king anymore, without the collection of you? The King of Heroes, Jin Ying, can I put the artifact of my King of Jotunheim in it? Chapter 45, Part 1. Call. Calm down, calm down. This is just a special gift package given away by the system for free, and things are common at all. The system building rewards for the main task should be normal. After all, no matter how stingy the system is, it still has to follow the rules. Loki comforted himself a few words, then clicked on the system rewards for the main mission with a feeling of apprehension. Ding! Congratulations to the host. You have obtained the Skill King's Treasure Supplement Package. When Loki saw this, his heart suddenly went cold. He had seen this sentence 3 times before when he received the side task reward. And in these 3 experiences, the precious equipment supplement packs issued by the system were the Uruk Cup, the colorless top-grade fine wine, and the spiritual grass for rectifying the stomach. Uruk Cup, the vessel used by the hero King Gilgamesh to drink. Colorless top-quality wine, the wine collected by the hero King Gilgamesh. Spiritual herb to straighten the stomach. Eating this medicine can save you from the torment of dark cooking, but the disadvantage is that you will lose your sense of taste since then. When Loki saw these 3 system rewards, his face was so dark that he could squeeze out ink. Although later Sif proved with her cooking skills that some things are not worthless, but they have not yet come across the time when they need to be valuable. The colorless top-quality wine also makes Jotunheim invincible at diplomatic receptions. But if given a choice, Loki would rather endure the torture of Sif's dark cooking and would like to change to a more powerful noble phantasm. Fortunately, everything was just a false alarm, and the system did not give up its bottom line. After seeing the second half of the system prompt in the next second, Loki's heart that fell to the bottom rose to the clouds again. The Lock of the Sky, the anti-god treasure, the most trusted treasure of the hero King Gilgamesh. The role of this treasure is to regulate the gods. The higher the divinity of the captured person, the harder the chain will be, and the harder it is to break free. On the contrary, for those who do not possess divinity, this is nothing more than a relatively stronger chain. Seeing that the treasure in the supplementary bag of the system this time turned out to be the Skylock, the whole person was so excited that he couldn't help but tremble. The ability of Taiyan Zizuo, to put it bluntly, only plays high-end rounds and does not play low-end rounds. Having this noble phantasm in the King's Treasure is like a tiger with wings added to Loki. In fact, with Loki's current strength, there are very few enemies who can threaten him. Even if the strength is not as good as that of the opponent, relying on Moko Botmo's time-stop ability, he can easily escape. But most of the time, evasion is not only shameful, but also useless. It was as if Loki had to confront Ego in order to keep Asgard, an ancient one, as the supreme mage, had to stand up to the dimension Mephisto. At such times, means that can effectively deal with these enemies are needed. And with the Lock of the Sky in your hand, no matter you are a god, an ancient god, a Mephisto, or an old ruler, you can only obediently catch Loki in front of Loki. Hey, teacher, is your face convulsing? Why are you able to complete so many expression changes in just a few seconds? Ancient One stretched out his hand and waved in front of Loki's eyes, looking at Loki's eyes full of curiosity. Being disturbed by Ancient One, Loki immediately recovered from the joy of winning the grand prize. No, I'm just happy for you. Now that your speculation has been proven to be correct, then you can try it boldly. Well, I will stay in Kamartosh for a few days. After you recover from your injuries, I will protect you next to you. This way you can concentrate all your attention on purifying the source of magic power. Ancient One also nodded, accepting Loki's kindness. Well, I'll start healing now. This kind of injury, I can recover in less than 2 days. Loki, well, let's set the time in 4 days and allow 1 more day for you to adjust your mental state. After all, you are using the will of the 2 gods. If something goes wrong, the consequences will be disastrous. In 3 days, not only did Ancient One need to adjust his state, but Loki, as the guardian of Ancient One, also needed to make some preparations in advance. System, open my personal attribute panel. Since Loki was 10 years old, he hadn't looked at his personal attribute panel in the system. On the one hand, it is because they are busy improving their own strength and completing system tasks, and on the other hand, because the system is too stingy, and originally there are not many skills, so it is naturally not worth opening and checking. However, with the accumulation of time, he completed more and more main and side quests, and received more and more quest rewards from the system. Coupled with the abilities he had learned and mastered and a series of magics created by himself, Loki thought it was time to reorganize his abilities. Host: Loki Bloodline, Frost Titan, Strength, Level Godfather, Early Stage, Early, Middle, Late, Peak, Magic, Asgard Magic, Ability Magic, Freezing, White Magic, Black Magic, System Skills, Kyoka Suigetsu, Devil Fruit, Frozen Power Kai, Ninja Jinjutsu Kai, Moko Botmo, Kyoka Suigetsu Complete Hypnotic Ability, King's Treasure, Skylock, Uruk Cup, Colorless Wine of the Highest Grade, Stomach Rectifying Spirit Herb, Durindal, Dacitin, Gorum, Spiral Sword, Slaughtering Undead Blade, Flying, Thor's Dagger, 1,000-year-old building blocks, a large amount of scrap copper and rotten iron made by the Dwarf Clan, self-created skills, Flying Thor Series, Helix Pill Series, Immortal Mode, Unfinished. It has not been sorted out in a centralized manner before, and now it will be displayed here in a unified manner, and the number of words will not be frequently listed. Chapter 46, Part 1. How is the state today? In the Supreme Mage Holy Place, Loki and Ancient One met again after 3 days. I feel great now. Compared with 3 days ago, Ancient One's mental state is obviously much better. Although there was still no blood on his face, it was not because Ancient One's injury hadn't healed yet. Rather, it was a side effect of her use of dark energy to extend her life. Compared with normal people, Ancient One's heart rate and metabolic rate were reduced to a very low level. Most of the bodily functions are maintained through dark energy. In this case, let's start directly. After speaking, Loki pushed out with one palm towards the void, bringing the two of them into the mirror space. Ancient One nodded confidently, then sat down cross-legged on the spot, and began to mobilize the black and white energies in his body to intertwine with each other. The two energies are entangled with each other, constantly rotating, and finally slowly form a yin-yang fish pattern. After experiencing the first failure before, during these 3 days, Ancient One, besides healing, was also thinking about how to improve the success rate of the magic power purification process. In the end, she found the answer from the culture of a great ancient oriental country. As the saying goes, Taiji produces Liangyi, Liangyi produces 4 images, and 4 images produce gossip. Tai Chi is the state before the heavens and the earth are opened and chaos is not divided into yin and yang, which is very similar to the state formed by 2 different magic powers in her body. The development of the universe is a process from the infinite to the extreme, and to the metamorphosis of all things. This also coincides with her growth process from a mortal without magic power to becoming a teacher after gaining magic power, and finally being able to use magic power to cast all kinds of magic. So Ancient One took this as inspiration and created a new method of magic purification. What Ancient One is doing now is to extract the pure yin and yang from the magic source of chaos. And based on the yin and yang, it can break through the boundaries of the magic system and generate infinite changes. Once this Tai Chi yin yang is fully formed, the entire process of magic power purification can be completed automatically in the future, and Ancient One no longer needs to worry about his will being corrupted by Dormammu all the time. Just as Ancient One entered the mirror space to try to purify the magic power again, the 3 magic holy places left by Agamotto and Midgard were facing an unprecedented crisis. During these 3 days, not only Ancient One and Loki were preparing for the attempt of magic purification, Dormammu and the fallen believers who were bewitched by it were also preparing for the invasion of the dimension where Midgard was located. Because of the Ancient One's previous failed attempt, Dormammu sensed that someone in Midgard was stealing magic power from his dark dimension. And what makes Dormammu afraid is that the other party seems to have mastered the means to eliminate his will left in the magic power. This made Mephisto Dormammu, who is a majestic dark dimension, panic instantly. Because if all the mages in Midgard have mastered this method of stealing energy from him without being controlled by him, then wouldn't he become a cash machine for the mages of Midgard from now on? Mages can unscrupulously use magic power from themselves, and they don't have to worship him as a belief. And after losing his believers, he will never be able to break the barrier left by Agamotto, let alone have the chance to conquer the dimension where Midgard is located. But what Dormammu doesn't know is that this method of magic power purification is so difficult that even Ancient One, the most excellent existence among the previous supreme mages, cannot guarantee that he will succeed. So Dormammu's worries are completely unnecessary. Definitely, once Ancient One has successfully purified its magic power, it will undoubtedly become more difficult for Dormammu to invade. It was precisely because of the lack of information that Dormammu, driven by the sense of crisis in his heart, decided to completely nip it in the bud before everything he imagined happened. During these 3 days, Dormammu summoned all the mage he had bewitched in Midgard for so many years, for one purpose, that is to destroy the defensive barrier formed by the 3 holy places and welcome the coming of Mephisto Dormammu. Thus, Ancient One and Dormammu both chose today as the day to implement the plan. Nearly 20 depraved mage who believed in Dormammu divided into 3 groups to launch a surprise attack on the 3 holy places located in Asia, Europe, and America. The fallen mages, who had received epic-level enhancements from Dormammu, defeated the Kamartaj mage who was guarding the holy place when they were outnumbered. Soon, the 3 holy places fell one after another. With the fall of the last holy place, Agamotto's defensive barrier built with these 3 holy places as nodes also completely failed at the moment. Without the barrier of the enchantment, the fish on the chopping board in front of Dormammu in the entire dimension can be slaughtered by him. At the moment when the defensive barrier completely failed, the 2 powerful mages Loki and Ancient One finally perceived danger. At this time, Loki was born quickly, stopping Ancient One who was planning to interrupt the magic power purification. You stay here and complete the magic power purification with peace of mind, and I will deal with the outside real-world affairs. I can assure you that with me today, Dormammu's ambition to devour this dimension is doomed to fail. After the words fell, Loki summoned the 1,000-year building block from the king's treasure, then opened the door of the secret method and left the mirror space. And Ancient One's frown just now slowly relaxed, and he refocused his attention on the final process of stabilizing Tai Chi Yin and Yang. Chapter 47, Part 1. In the real world, as soon as Loki came out of the mirror space, he felt a strong attraction. This is like a meteor in the universe. When it encounters a mass of enough huge amounts of planet, it will be captured by the planet's strong gravity, and then fall to the surface of the planet as a meteorite. Compared to the dark dimension controlled by Dormammu, Midgard is that meteor, falling towards the dark dimension due to suffering huge amounts of attraction. Moko Potmo. Midgard is the center of the entire world tree system. Once Midgard falls, the other countries in the 9 realms will not be able to survive alone. So Loki definitely cannot watch Midgard become swallowed by Dormammu and become a nutrient for the growth of the dark dimension. As Loki casts Mokobotama's ability into effect, the movement of matter across the entire planet is forcibly frozen. Not even Dormammu, however powerful, could devour Midgard in the next 90 seconds. But at the same time, Loki must also successfully drive or subdue Dormammu within the limited 90 seconds. Otherwise, after the time stop effect of Mokbatmo ends, Midgard still cannot escape the fate of becoming Dormammu's lunch. Even if he had to fight against the power of an entire dark dimension with his own strength, Loki was still fearless in the face of danger. I saw him calmly, opening a portal to the dark dimension without changing his face, and then walked in without any hesitation. Dormammu abandons his body and integrates with the dark dimension with his soul. If Loki wants to repel Dormammu, he must enter the dark dimension. As soon as he entered the dark dimension, Loki saw countless planet corpses connected in series by dark energy. These planets were once in their dimensions, where intelligent life was born and brilliant civilizations were created. But in the end, all of them, together with their own dimension, were swallowed by Dormammu and became the nutrient of the dark dimension. Only these planet corpses left in the dark dimension prove that these civilizations once existed. And the dark dimension that has swallowed countless dimensions, its dimensional space is undoubtedly very vast. But even so, Loki quickly saw Dormammu's huge body constructed of dark matter from the gap in the planet's corpse. Even the god Ego, who has a whole planet as his body, is completely insignificant in front of Dormammu's body. Faced with the extreme oppression brought about by this size gap, in order not to let himself be at a disadvantage in terms of momentum from the beginning, Loki decided to start pretending. The enemy is in front of me, either run away or be completely defeated. Dormammu, if you don't want to look too bad later, I advise you to be a mousetail juice, otherwise don't blame me for not talking about martial arts and bullying you, an old man. Dormammu couldn't remember how many years he hadn't been as excited as he is now, but for some reason, he was picked up by Loki with just a few words, making the 3 corpses jump violently. Are you looking for death? Little bug. Your world belongs to me now, Dormammu. Since you want to die, then I will fulfill you. Roar. A breath of dark energy contained Dormammu's anger, directly submerging Loki completely in it. But in front of the divine skill, Mirror Flower and Water Moon, this simple energy attack can't cause any damage to Loki at all. While the black mist surged, Loki's body easily escaped Dormammu's attack range. To be honest, with Loki's current strength, Dormammu would be a very good practical opponent if the time is not tight. The two are similar in strength and have their own strengths. Loki can try all kinds of combination skills without fear and greets Dormammu. It's a pity that Dormammu didn't come at the right time. In this case, Loki could only use his full strength to defeat him in a short time. The Lock of the Sky. This is also where Dormammu's luck is worst, because Loki got the anti-god treasure called Skylock not long ago. For an existence like Dormammu who has the concept of God in itself, the shackles of the Skylock are an inescapable existence. As Loki's voice fell, the Skylock emerged from the king's treasure. The chain is anchored in the void of the dark dimension, and under the pull of the shuttle, it quickly seals off the space around Dormammu. Immediately afterwards, the chains that had already laid a net began to shrink rapidly, and without giving Dormammu any time to react, they directly wrapped him tightly. Facing the shackles of the Skylock, even if Dormammu is the ruler of the dark dimension, at the moment is helpless. Damn little bug. What kind of method are you using? If you let me break free, I will not let you go easily. Dormammu kept roaring and trying to struggle out of the chains, but the more he struggled, the tighter the Skylock became. Even though Dormammu tried his best, he couldn't hurt the Skylock. As for Dormammu, who has lost his resistance ability and can only be impotent and furious, there are many things Loki wants to do. For example, Loki wants to try the Slaughter Undead Blade, which can invalidate the undead attribute. If it is used on Dormammu, what effect will it have? Chapter 48, Part 1. Does the Slaughter Undead Blade, which can invalidate the undead attribute, have any effect on Dormammu? Loki's conclusion after experimenting is, don't know. Because the only advantage of this sword may be, can invalidate the undead attribute. It originally has nothing outstanding in terms of design, material selection, or forging. So when Loki tried to use the slaughtering undead blade to kill Dormammu, an undecedent, this piece of trash couldn't even break Dormammu's defenses, so the test couldn't go on, and naturally there was no result. In this regard, Dormammu also quite proudly laughed at Loki's overreaching. But it doesn't matter, as a time traveler, Loki has a lot of whimsy. It's just that these ideas are too outrageous, and it's impossible to find a suitable test site and test subjects. If it weren't for the generous Dormammu, not only would Loki use his dark dimension as a testing ground for free, and also very sacrificing spirit, willing to dedicate himself to science, using himself as Loki's test subject. Such a noble soul moved Loki almost to tears, and then he turned his head and tightened the Skylock, letting it bind Dormammu even more firmly. Throw the waste treasure of the slaughtering undead blade into the king's treasure, and prepare to take it back as a gift to his daughter-in-law. Loki immediately took out another object with the same strange shape. However, this thing is neither a treasure nor a weapon, but a metal craft in the shape of a water drop that Loki asked the dwarf craftsman in Nidavellir to make for himself. This metal water drop is about 3.5 meters long and has a mass of about 10 tons, which is similar to the file size of a small spaceship. The material used to make it is not ulu metal or other expensive materials, but the most common steel. Moreover, for such a useless metal craft, Loki also asked dwarf craftsmen to create more than one, and collected it in the treasure of the king. In fact, if this metal water droplet is placed in other people's hands, it will indeed have no value in the king's treasure. But when it appeared in Loki's hands, the situation was completely different. Loki remembered seeing such a detector in a science fiction novel in his previous life. Its shell is made of a strongly interacting material with tightly packed particles and little vibration between molecules, so the surface is close to absolute zero. Because this strong interaction force material is 100 times stronger than the common material composed of electromagnetic force. So although this device is called a detector, it can easily penetrate battleships and cities, just like bullets penetrate cheese. And the name of this detector is called Water Droplet in that novel. The metal water drop handicraft that Loki asked the dwarf clan to make for himself is an imitation of the big killer in the science fiction novel, Water Drop. Definitely, this kind of imitation has not been realized in terms of materials, technology, or function as a detector, except for the similar appearance. But don't forget, Loki, as an open-time traveler, also possesses a skill that can turn waste into treasure Moko Botmo. In that science fiction novel, the civilization that made this detector is just a device inside the water droplet, allowing the strong interaction force of the shell material to overflow, and the surface is close to absolute zero. And the Mokobatama, obtained by Loki from the system, can directly create a low temperature of absolute zero, completely stagnating the movement of microscopic particles. Such an effect is even more perfect than those mentioned in science fiction novels. It has transcended science fiction and entered the category of fantasy. Under the effect of such a bug-level skill, even a metal droplet made of the cheapest steel can become an indestructible terrorist weapon. Now behind Loki, more and more drops of metal floated into the void as he called. Loki once again used the skill of Mokobotama. In order to protect the Earth before, Moko Botmo has consumed 80 seconds of skill time today. With a big wave of his hand, Loki devoted the remaining 10 seconds of skill time to this experiment. And the metal water droplets that originally looked a little foggy on the surface, after being frozen at absolute zero, the surface turned into a smooth and flawless mirror surface. In the next 10 seconds, these water droplets will become indestructible and terrifying weapons. Under Loki's control, the water droplets that appeared behind him, like 10,000 arrows, were accelerated and launched from the king's treasure, and the target went straight to Dormammu's huge body bound by the Skylock. Compared with the slaughtering undying blade, which could not even break through the defense, The result of this attempt is quite different. Although Water Drop originally didn't have any special effects, it completely relied on its own kinetic energy to kill. But this kind of weapon with an extremely simple killing method left dense scars on Dormammu's body made of dark energy and dark matter. For a Dimension Mephisto like Dormammu, physical attacks can't actually cause him any damage at all. However, this kind of attack does not do much damage, but it is extremely insulting. Dormammu, who was still laughing at Loki just now, turned his head and was slapped in the face by Loki. Then it was another round of frantic struggle, trying to break free from the shackles of the sky. Definitely, Dormammu's attempt this time ended in failure, and then another incompetent rage. Sure enough, what has been done must be done again, and what has been done must be done afterward. Pluto sincerely does not deceive me. Chapter 49, Part 1. Ah! You damn little bug, you can't kill me. I don't believe that the ability of your chain can be activated forever. After I break free, I will make your soul suffer forever and ever. You will never win me. I am the ruler of this dark dimension, Dormammu. Loki felt that Dormammu's spirit had begun to become a little normal after being used as a test subject by himself, after experimenting again and again. Because he had already explained to Dormammu before that using the Skylock doesn't actually cost him much mana. Even with Loki's own magical power, it would be a breeze to persist for 10 days and half a month. What's more, he still has a 1,000-year-old building block, an inexhaustible source of plug-in magic power. So as long as Loki is willing to spend with Dormammu, Dormammu will not be able to escape the shackles of the sky until he dies due to exhaustion of life. Normally, a Dimension Mephisto like Dormammu, with his spiritual power, does not have amnesia or inability to remember. The current state of Dormammu can only show one thing, that is, there is a problem with his mental state. Definitely, Loki wasn't trying to drive Dormammu crazy. A crazy Dimension Mephisto will only cause Loki more trouble. In fact, as Dormammu said, there is no way for Loki to kill Dormammu, who is a Dimension Mephisto, unless he has the strength to directly destroy a dimension. Even with the help of the power of infinite gems in the Millennium building blocks, at least Loki needs to reach the peak strength of level Godfather to complete it. So by doing this, Loki is actually imitating Doctor Strange, who will succeed Ancient One as the next Supreme Mage in the future, and wants to force Dormammu to agree to the negotiation conditions he proposed. It's just that Doctor Strange used the time loop constructed by Eye of Agamotto to force Dormammu to negotiate terms with him. Loki, bound by the Skylock, put Dormammu on a cycle of mental torment. Now, just wait until Dormammu is tortured to the point of a nervous breakdown. Then is the perfect time for Loki to start negotiations. As for now, the time has not come yet. It's definitely not that Loki hasn't played enough. Absolutely not. Just when Loki was about to test his next imaginative idea, a space portal appeared beside Loki, and then he saw Ancient One coming out from the other side and standing beside Loki. Seeing Ancient One appear, Loki was stunned for a moment. Then his eyes lit up instantly, and he asked Ancient One, "Successful?" Ancient One didn't hold back, nodded slightly, and responded directly, "Successful. What about your side? Can you get it done?" Ancient One asked Loki about the situation, while shaking the Eye of Agamotto around his neck. The point is obvious. If Loki can't figure it out, she can help. She brought all of Kamartov's big babies. Loki waved his hand and said, "No, I can still handle a mere Dormammu. But you just completed the magic power purification. Do you want to use the purified magic power to cast a few spells and get familiar with your own power?" The meaning of Loki's words is to ask Ancient One if he wants to use Dormammu to practice his hands. Hearing this, Ancient One, who was eager to try, directly agreed. After all, as the Supreme Mage, she used white magic a lot on weekdays, and her spellcasting skills were naturally extremely proficient. But in order to avoid exposure of the fact that he stole energy from the Dark Dimension, the chances of Ancient One being able to use black magic are relatively rare. It is rare to have such a great opportunity, and Ancient One definitely will not let it go. She didn't say a word, and she started directly with a black magic of the Forbidden Curse level, and the creator of this black magic was Dormammu, who was tightly bound by the chain of the sky in front of her. Attack Dormammu in the Dark Dimension with magic created by Dormammu. I have to say that Ancient One has the ability to engage in mentality. If we talk about the beginning, it can be said to be a coincidence. Then after that, the black magic that Ancient One used one after another turned out to be created by Dormammu, which confirms that Ancient One was not careless, but indeed intentional. And in order to discuss Dormammu, Ancient One also kept a part of the original flavor of the magic power in the black magic, and was committed to making Dormammu know that when he was hit by this black magic, what hit him was the black magic created by himself. For Ancient One's behavior that does not talk about martial arts, Dormammu's huge black face is also very cooperative, showing the classic expression of the man who wants to use swords. Finally, after repeated torment by the two torture kings, Loki and Ancient One, Dormammu said what Loki had been waiting for, "Stop, this time, I admit defeat." Chapter 50, Part 1. Let's talk. What conditions must I promise you before you are willing to release me from the shackles? Loki looked at Dormammu, who was finally willing to bow his head and begged for mercy, with a wicked smile on his face. Now that Dormammu has been pushed to this point by himself, if he doesn't open his mouth like a lion, how can he be worthy of the hard work that he, an Ancient One, gave Dormammu just now? Our conditions are actually very simple. You see, since you have surrendered now, I ask you to take your followers out of Midgard and never invade again. This is definitely reasonable, right? Also, the 3 holy places left by Agamotto Mage are historical relics and cultural heritage. They were ruined by your believers just like that. Afterwards, we still need to spend manpower, material resources, time and energy to repair it. It's not too much to ask you for a little bit more. Needless to say, you must provide the magic materials needed to repair the holy place. There are also those Kamartaj Mage who guard the holy place. This time, they were hit so badly by your believers. Maybe they will leave some psychological trauma. Are you saying that you should compensate hundreds or thousands of magic books as their mental damage? Is this a reasonable request? Besides, I am the king of Jotunheim. I wasted so much time because of your appearance today. You must pay me for appearance fees and lost wages, right? However, I am a kind-hearted person, so I will definitely not let you suffer too much. I think you have devoured so many dimensions, and you should have collected a lot of artifacts and magic weapons from various worlds, right? You just give me 1,000 or 800 pieces as compensation, so today's matter, I'm going to turn the page with you. If you can agree to all these requests, then I will take back the Skylock and let you leave here. To be honest, after hearing these simple conditions put forward by Loki, not only Dormammu, the client, stared wide-eyed, but even the bystander, Ancient One, was stunned. I didn't expect you to be such a Loki. If they didn't know the ins and outs of the whole thing, Ancient One would have thought that Loki was the big villain, and Dormammu was the little white rabbit who was bullied by the villain and was powerless to resist. She hurriedly reminded Loki in a low voice, "Hey, teacher, are you asking too much for this? Be careful to push Dormammu into a hurry, and finally we will die. Don't worry, although we can't kill this fish, Dormammu won't try to tear through the sky-wide net laid by the Skylock." Loki gave Ancient One a reassuring look and said confidently. Regarding the conditions proposed by Loki, Dormammu's first reaction was, "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Let me leave with the believers and stop meddling in your world." I can agree. But even if I, Dormammu, are trapped to death by you, if I spend my time here, I won't compensate you for anything. Dormammu didn't know that when he said these words, he had actually touched a supreme rule force in the universe, the law of true fragrance. This means that soon after, Dormammu is bound to be slapped in the face by what he said at the moment. Thinking of this, Loki became more confident. So while applauding, he said to Dormammu, "Good. Very good. As expected of the ruler of the Dark Dimension, he really has backbone. Since that's the case, Ancient One, why don't you continue with the magic test just now? I remember this backbone Mephisto, but he created a lot of powerful black magic." With that, Loki tightened the chains around Dormammu again. The regulation of God, symbolized by the lock of the sky, is not just the bondage of the body. Its originally suppressed rule against the concept of God will also oppress the souls of those who possess divinity. Therefore, the restraint of Dormammu by the Skylock seems to be restraining his body, but it is actually oppressing his soul. After all, Dormammu gave up his physical body before becoming a dimension Mephisto. The current body is just fabricated by him in the Dark Dimension using magic power. But even Loki didn't expect that Dormammu's figure could be so soft. One second he was still talking stubbornly, and the next second Loki just tightened the chain. Dormammu directly changed his words and agreed to the conditions offered by Loki. Ah, it's a pity. Loki shook his head in disappointment. He thought, how could Dormammu last 2 or 3 more rounds? Unexpectedly, he agreed to the conditions he proposed so quickly, which made all the methods he had planned to use on Dormammu all in vain. Seeing Loki's appearance, Dormammu couldn't help shivering, thinking that it's a good thing he promised quickly, otherwise he wouldn't know what Loki would do to him later. At the same time, Dormammu was also very speechless about Loki's behavior. He just wanted to bargain. As the saying goes, asking for a lot of money, just sit on the ground and pay back the money. If you are dissatisfied with the cut in labor and capital, you can continue the discussion. There is no one like Loki who directly turned the negotiating table without saying a word. Ha 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 ha, those who know the current affairs are the best. I like to negotiate with smart people like you, Dormammu. The situation is better than others, and occasionally lowering your head is like moving your cervical spine. Don't you think so, Dormammu? Ah, that's right. You're right. Then, when will this chain loosen for me? What else can Dormammu say about Loki's deser? The situation is stronger than people. There is no rush to untie it. I think we should talk about the compensation first. The magic materials needed to restore the holy place. the magic books to be compensated to the mages, and the artifacts and magic tools I want. You take out the things first, and I will loosen the chains for you after I am satisfied. Anyway, we can run away as monks but not the temple, so you don't have to worry about my dishonesty. In the end, seeing Loki's expression of not intending to give in at all, Dormammu could only grit his back molars and agree, yes,